Chapter 342. When Changjiang hurriedly stepped forward and said, "I'm the director of Jiangnan Hospital. This is the best doctor in Jiangnan, Dr. Qin Haodong, who is known as the medical sage. He will definitely cure your man's illness." "Are you the Dr. Qin who invented the blood revival elixir?" the middle-aged woman asked. "Yes, that's me," Qin Haodong replied. "Dr. Qin, please save my man. He's just 50 years old this year. Don't worry, I'll definitely cure him." Time was running out. Qin Haodong quickly untied the middle-aged man's coat and began to insert needles. When he inserted more than a dozen golden needles into the man's chest, the door opened and Ho Weiguo, the director of the Department of Sanity, hurried in. "Dr. Qin, I heard that you've seen this prescription. What's going on?" Qin Haodong inserted the last golden needle and told him about how Xie Tian had once sold the prescription to him. Finally, he said, "I repeatedly told Xie Tian not to use the prescription before it was completed. I didn't expect the Hall of Medical Fame to start mass production and change its name. This damn Hall of Medical Fame is simply making trouble for traditional Chinese medicine." After cursing, Ho Weiguo asked again, "Now similar situations are happening in other cities. There will only be more and more patients. If this situation is allowed to continue, traditional Chinese medicine will be completely finished." After taking a breath, he asked eagerly, "Dr. Qin, do you have any good ideas?" "There is one way." "Tell me quickly." Ho Weiguo grabbed Qin Haodong's sleeve as if he was grasping the last straw. If this matter really worsened and there were even cases of death, his position as the director of the Department of Sanity would come to an end. Qin Haodong said, "After reading the prescription of the 8 Treasures kidney-nourishing pill that day, I thought about how to remedy liver damage in my spare time. Later, I found an ancient prescription called the Great Liver Protecting Pill. This prescription has a very good effect on liver damage caused by the 8 Treasures kidney-nourishing pill. However, there are too many people who are sick now. I can't write a prescription alone. It's best to mass-produce this medicine." He had chosen this prescription from the ancient prescriptions of the cultivation world. It had a miraculous effect on liver damage. Originally, he had planned to start mass production later. He hadn't expected this situation to happen today, so he had to advance the plan. Ho Weiguo was so excited that he almost jumped up and said, "Great, Dr. Qin, you are really my savior." Qin Haodong said, "But there is another problem. If you want to quantify the production, you have to go through a complicated approval process. It will take too long. I'm afraid it will be too late." "It doesn't matter. We can handle it." Ho Weiguo calmed down and said, "Dr. Qin, how about this? Let's go in 2 steps. Test the prescription on a few patients, and then ask your Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company to speed up the production. Once the test is successful, I'll give you a special batch number, and you'll start selling it on the market immediately." Qin Haodong thought for a moment. This was indeed the best way at present. He said, "This is a good idea. It can shorten the time as much as possible." He wrote down the prescription of the Great Liver Protecting Pill and gave it to Wen Changjiang. He asked him to find someone to boil the medicine and test it on several patients. It was almost time. He turned around and took the golden needles out of the middle-aged man's chest. After taking out the golden needles, the middle-aged man woke up and slowly opened his eyes. "Thank you, Dr. Qin. Thank you so much." The middle-aged woman was grateful and thanked Qin Haodong again and again. "Let the patient have a good rest. I'll go first." Qin Haodong was anxious to deal with the production of the Great Liver Protecting Pill. He said goodbye to Ho Weiguo, left Jiangnan Hospital, and returned to Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. Back in the president's office, Qin Haodong briefly introduced the situation and said, "Momo, stop the production of the blood revival pill immediately and arrange people to purchase the medicinal materials. The first batch of Great Liver Protecting Pill must be produced by tomorrow morning." Lin Momo also realized the seriousness of the situation. She called Lu Yage and immediately entered a tense state of busyness. It had to be said that under the leadership of Qin Haodong, Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company's execution was very strong. At 2:00 in the afternoon, the medicinal materials for the production of the Great Liver Protecting Pill had been purchased and entered the production state. He breathed a sigh of relief and sat on the sofa to have a rest. But at that moment the phone rang again. It was Gao Fengwen. After answering the phone, Gao Fengwen said in a hurry, "President, something big happened. Wang Desheng just held a press conference on behalf of the Wuxia Hall of Medical Fame." Qin Haodong was not too worried when he heard the news. He grabbed the glass of water on the table and took a sip. Then he said, "Such a big thing happened. It's normal for the Wuxia Hall of Medical Fame to hold a press conference to explain. Gao Fengwen said angrily, but Wang Desheng didn't speak the human language at all. He put all the blame on traditional Chinese medicine. What? Is that true? Let me see. Qin Haodong hung up the phone, grabbed the laptop on the table and opened the official website of the Wuxia Hall of Medical Fame. On the homepage, the video file of the press conference was playing. After receiving the news that the treasure tablet for kidney had caused many people to be hospitalized, Che Xiaoxiao hurriedly found Wang Desheng. Desheng, such a big thing happened. What should we do? Where did you get the formula? How could it cause so much damage to the liver? Wang Desheng was calm and not worried at all. He said slowly, Xiaoxiao, why are you worried? It's not a big deal. Every medicine has side effects. Don't worry too much. Che Xiaoxiao said eagerly, but now the Sanitary Bureau has informed us to stop production and sales. Now there is a lot of noise on the internet. They all say that what we are producing is not a cure but a poison. Wang Desheng said, it's okay. Stop production first. Everyone should rest for a few days. Our medicine has been approved, so we will definitely resume production in a few days. As for those people on the internet, we will hold a press conference in the afternoon and explain to them. Will this work? Che Xiaoxiao asked worriedly. Of course. Wang Desheng patted Che Xiaoxiao's cheek and said, don't be afraid. Let me handle it. Let me shelter you from the wind and rain. All right then. Che Xiaoxiao hugged Wang Desheng tightly and put her face on his chest. She finally felt a little safe. Desheng, thank you. It's so good to have you. What are you talking about? The Hall of Medical Fame is our common cause. Although there has been a little setback, the future will definitely be good. On the internet, news about the treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame had occupied the headlines and hot searches of major portals. All kinds of news emerged one after another. Everyone was also guessing what had happened to the treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame. Why had so many people been hospitalized? Therefore, when they received the news that the Wuxia Hall of Medical Fame was going to hold a press conference, reporters from all the major media swarmed in. They all wanted to get first-hand information and filled the venue of the Hall of Medical Fame. After the press conference began, Wang Desheng didn't let Che Xiaoxiao host or even let her go on the stage. He sat alone on the rostrum. After the press conference officially began, Wang Desheng smiled and said to the audience, everyone, I know why you are here. If you have any questions, just ask. Seeing his attitude, a reporter took the lead to ask, Mr. Wang, the treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame has caused serious damage to the liver. Now dozens of patients have been hospitalized. Do you know about this? Wang Desheng smiled more happily and said, of course I know. Otherwise, why would I hold a press conference? The reporter said angrily, Mr. Wang, since the treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame has caused such serious consequences, why don't I see any apology from you? Don't you feel guilty? Don't you think you should apologize to the patients who have been hurt by the treasure tablet for kidney? Guilty? Apologize. As if he had heard the funniest joke, Wang Desheng said with extreme disdain, why should I apologize? The treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame has been approved by the state. The state has approved the production and sale of it. I am willing to sell it and you are willing to buy it. What does it have to do with me if there is a problem? After he said this, there was an immediate uproar. Fortunately, most of the people who came were media reporters, and there were no family members of the patients. Otherwise, the order of the scene would be out of control. Che Xiaoxiao frowned. She didn't know what Wang Desheng was going to do. Why did he say that? However, since the press conference was hosted by Wang Desheng, she naturally couldn't say anything. At this time, another reporter asked, Mr. Wang, I want to ask, who do you think is mainly responsible for the hospitalization of the patients with the treasure tablet for kidney? Does it have nothing to do with the Hall of Medical Fame? Of course it has nothing to do with me. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame traditional Chinese medicine. Since everyone was listening to him, Wang Desheng continued, for example, a farmer bought a corn seed and planted it home. It took root and sprouted. When it matured, it was sold on the market. Some people ate the corn produced by him and vomited and had diarrhea. Who do you think should be blamed for this? The farmer? What does it have to do with the farmer? In the same way, I, Wang Desheng, am just a businessman. According to the prescription of traditional Chinese medicine, I produced the famous Hall of Medical Fame's treasure tablet for kidney. I didn't invent this prescription. What does it have to do with me? After another uproar, another reporter rushed to ask, Mr. Wang, do Do you mean that the main responsibility for this accident is not you, but traditional Chinese medicine? Wang Deshang said, that goes without saying. Obviously, the prescription of traditional Chinese medicine is not scientific. I produced it strictly according to the prescription. What do you think it has to do with me if there is a problem with the produced medicine? Mr. Wang, it seems that you don't believe in traditional Chinese medicine at all. Since you don't believe in traditional Chinese medicine, why do you want to engage in the traditional Chinese medicine industry? Wang Deshang smiled and said, to tell you the truth, I am a highly educated person. After graduating from college, I went to country for further study for 5 years. As far as I know, traditional Chinese medicine is not scientific at all. Its system has not been verified by any medical science, but some people like to believe it. This time, I came back to engage in the traditional Chinese medicine industry from the perspective of a businessman to make money. Who knew that traditional Chinese medicine would be so disappointing? The first product had such a problem. I can only blame myself for choosing such an unscientific traditional Chinese medicine industry in the wrong direction. Che Xiaoxiao's face was already very ugly. She hadn't expected Wang Deshang to choose this way to shirk responsibility and put all the blame on traditional Chinese medicine. Another reporter asked, Mr. Wang, you said that traditional Chinese medicine is not scientific. Why did the blood revival elixir produced by Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company cure so many leukemia patients? Chapter 343. Wang Deshang sneered and said, you mean the blood revival elixir? As far as I know, many people attacked Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company yesterday. I heard that the blood revival elixir killed people. I don't want to comment too much on whether it's true or not, but there is no scientific basis for traditional Chinese medicine. It may be fine today, but who knows what will happen tomorrow. I don't care if you believe in traditional Chinese medicine or not. I only take Western medicine when I'm sick. I only believe in Western medicine. I never see traditional Chinese medicine, let alone take traditional Chinese medicine. Mr. Wang, I want to ask if your company is going to compensate these patients who were hospitalized because they took the treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame? Why should I compensate them? Why should I compensate them? Wang Deshang patted the table and said confidently, I didn't force them to buy the treasure tablet for kidney. Since they are stupid enough to believe in traditional Chinese medicine and buy it, how can I be blamed for what happened? They can only blame themselves for being stupid. To be honest, I really don't understand the IQ of these people. Zhang Qianhe of the Hall of Medical Fame killed 3 people a few days ago, but they still chose to believe in traditional Chinese medicine and continue to take the treasure tablet for kidney. How can they blame me for what happened? After he said this, the reporters on the scene were a little confused. It was understandable that Wang Deshang chose to make traditional Chinese medicine a scapegoat, but wasn't this completely destroying his own job? After today's press conference, the Hall of Medical Fame would close down. Another reporter asked, Mr. Wang, do you mean that the Hall of Medical Fame has no responsibility for this incident? Wang Deshang smiled and said, of course not. If you want to blame someone, blame traditional Chinese medicine. From a personal point of view, I suggest that Wuxia abolishes traditional Chinese medicine. It is not scientific at all. Sooner or later people will die. There was another uproar below the stage. If someone in the traditional Chinese medicine industry suggested to abolish traditional Chinese medicine, it would definitely cause a great disturbance throughout Wuxia. Wang Deshang smiled proudly. After the audience quieted down a little, he said, that's all I'll answer today. The press conference is over. Then he turned and walked backstage. Many reporters wanted to ask more questions, but they were stopped by the security guards of the venue. Che Xiaoxiao quickly caught up with Wang Deshang and said anxiously, Deshang, how could you do this? Wang Deshang looked at her and said with a smile, what's wrong? Xiaoxiao, what do you think I did wrong? Che Xiaoxiao said, how can you put all the blame on traditional Chinese medicine? This means that our Hall of Medical Fame is irresponsible and will make us close down. Wang Deshang said, what do you think I should do? Compensation. Apologize. That's the right attitude to handle things. Then what? Didn't they still have to close down? Wang Deshang patted Che Xiaoxiao on the shoulder and said, this matter is too big. How much would it cost to compensate for it? The best thing to do now is to give them the cold shoulder and let them cause a ruckus. But Che Xiaoxiao felt that this was absolutely wrong, but she couldn't convince Wang Deshang at the moment. Okay, I'll stay here. You go and take a look at the Chinese medicine factory. If I'm not wrong, the health bureau will come and seize us soon. All right then. Che Xiaoxiao's face was full of helplessness as she turned around and left the Hall of Medical Fame. Looking at her back, a trace of guilt flashed across Wang Deshang's face. Then he murmured, "Xiaoxiao, don't blame me. Blame yourself for being too stupid." Then he returned to his office and told the secretary not to disturb him. Then he slammed the door. Jiangnan Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. After watching Wang Deshang's press conference, Qin Haodong was so angry that his eyes were on fire. This damn thing obviously wanted to kill traditional Chinese medicine. At this time his cell phone rang. It was Ho Weiguo. "Haodong, did you watch the press conference of the Hall of Medical Fame?" "I just watched it." Wang Deshang didn't just shift the blame to others. He wanted to kill traditional Chinese medicine. I guess he was the mastermind behind all this. After saying this, Qin Haodong's mind suddenly became clear. Wang Deshang's purpose in returning to China this time was not to develop the traditional Chinese medicine industry, but to destroy traditional Chinese medicine. The Hall of Medical Fame was a tool for him to destroy traditional Chinese medicine. That was why he made Che Xiaoxiao the legal representative of the company. The purpose of producing the treasure tablet for kidney was to cause a huge negative impact on traditional Chinese medicine and make all Wuxia people no longer believe in traditional Chinese medicine. I really don't know what Wang Deshang was thinking. As a Wuxia person, he did this kind of thing. This time, the treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame has caused a huge blow to the traditional Chinese medicine industry. Now the voice of abolishing traditional Chinese medicine is getting louder and louder. If this matter is not properly handled, it will be really troublesome. After taking a breath, he said, "Fortunately, you've made a great contribution this time. After giving several patients your great liver-protecting pills, their conditions have improved significantly. I've asked the Ministry of Health for permission, and now you can quantify the production." Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company has already started production. Tomorrow morning, the first batch of great liver-protecting pills will be sold on the market. In order to calm this storm, I decided to sell it for free for the time being. Ho Weiguo was moved and said, "That's great, Dr. Qin. I thank you on behalf of these patients. I also thank you on behalf of traditional Chinese medicine." "You're welcome. I'm a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. It's my duty to do something for traditional Chinese medicine." Qin Haodong suddenly thought of a question and asked, "Director Ho, the treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame has such a strong side effect. How did they get the approval?" Ho Weiguo said, "I just realized this problem and sent someone to check. The Hall of Medical Fame didn't get the approval at all. The treasure tablet for kidney is completely illegal. From a legal point of view, they are selling fake medicine." There was no approval? Qin Haodong was shocked. If they were really selling fake medicine, as the legal representative of the Hall of Medical Fame, Che Xiaoxiao would definitely not be able to escape a heavy punishment. She might even be sentenced to death. At this time he realized how insidious Wang Deshang was. He had put the blame on Che Xiaoxiao early. Ho Weiguo said, "There was no approval. Our sanitary bureau will immediately investigate the Hall of Medical Fame's traditional Chinese medicine factory together with the Public Security Bureau." "Director Ho, I want to go with you." Qin Haodong hung up the phone and drove straight to the Hall of Medical Fame's traditional Chinese medicine factory. As soon as he parked the car, a team of police cars and the Sanitary Bureau's law enforcement car drove in. Nalan Wuxia led the Public Security Bureau's team, and Pan Gaofeng led the Sanitary Bureau's team. After greeting each other, they entered the gate of the traditional Chinese medicine factory together. Hearing the noise, Che Xiaoxiao immediately came out. Looking at the haggard girl, Qin Haodong sighed secretly. This woman who was obsessed with love had become Wang Deshang's scapegoat. Nalan Wuxia stepped forward and said, "Che Xiaoxiao, as the legal representative of the Hall of Medical Fame, your company is suspected of producing fake medicine. Now we are arresting and investigating you." Che Xiaoxiao said with a shocked face, "Officer Nalan, I admit that there's something wrong with my medicine, but how can it be possible that I produce fake medicine? My medicine has been approved. It's produced legally. How can it be fake medicine?" Pan Gaofeng said, "Show me your approval documents." Che Xiaoxiao seemed to be prepared. She turned around and took out a stack of approval documents from her bag and handed them to Pan Gaofeng. After carefully examining them, Pan Gaofeng said, "Your approval documents are fake. They are not real documents at all." "Fake? That's impossible. Deshang gave them to me. He said that he used a lot of connections to get the approval." Pan Gaofeng shook his head and said, "I can tell you responsibly that this is a fake approval document. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Deshang wouldn't lie to me." Pan Gaofeng said seriously, as the director of the Sanitary Bureau, I inform you that your documents are fake. Fake? Did Deshang lie to me? Why would he lie to me? Che Xiaoxiao's face suddenly darkened. Her eyes were filled with disappointment and silence. She stood there like a wooden sculpture. Even when she was handcuffed, she did not respond. The factory was completely closed down. Che Xiaoxiao was taken to the crime squad. Qin Haodong said to Nalan Wuxia, no, I have to go to Wang Deshang. This time, I have to find out the truth no matter what. I'll go with you. Nalan Wuxia and Qin Haodong went to the Hall of Medical Fame together. However, after knocking on the door of Wang Deshang's office for a long time, there was no response. Is Wang Deshang not here? Nalan Wuxia asked the little secretary next to her. The little secretary said, he should be here. President Wang went back to his room after the press conference. He hasn't come out. Feeling that something was wrong, Qin Haodong directly broke the door lock. The two pushed the door open and walked in. The room was empty. After searching for a long time, they did not see Wang Deshang. At this time, Qin Haodong saw a note on the boss's desk. He picked it up and saw a few lines written on it. Qin Haodong, I knew you would come to me, but it's too late. Although you are very capable, so what? In the end, you were defeated by me. The purpose of my return this time is to destroy the traditional Chinese medicine company you manage. Now it seems that the effect is good. I believe that Wuxia will soon publish the regulations restricting traditional Chinese medicine. Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company will be buried together with traditional Chinese medicine if the station restricts traditional Chinese medicine. The game is over. I'm leaving. Come to M country when you have time. I'll buy you a drink. By the way, don't try to find me for the time being. You can't find me. Nalan Wuxia also saw the note in Qin Haodong's hand and said angrily, that bastard, he ran away. Qin Haodong sneered and said, the game is not over yet. He can't run away. At Jiangnan Airport, Qin Haodong parked the car and walked to the airport hall with Nalan Wuxia. At this time, a passenger plane just landed, and the passengers walked out of the exit. Among the crowd, a tall and enchanting woman looked particularly eye-catching. Several pretentious men came forward to talk to her, but the woman refused them all without hesitation. Just as many male creatures kept swallowing, they saw the woman walk forward quickly and throw herself into the arms of a young and handsome man. What surprised people the most was that there was a very beautiful policewoman standing next to the man, who was no less beautiful than the woman. The enchanting woman was Hu Shaoxian, who had just gotten off the plane. She held Qin Haodong's arm tightly, and her two peaks were pressed tightly. She said in a sweet voice, little man, are you here to pick me up? How did you know I would come back today? Qin Haodong had come to find Wang Deshang, but he did not expect to meet Hu Shaoxian here. He withdrew his arm with a little embarrassment and said, well, I came to the airport to find someone. I thought you came to pick me up. I was happy for nothing. Hu Shaoxian did not let go and said, you came to find Wang Deshang, right? Qin Haodong asked in surprise, how do you know? Hu Shaoxian said with a smile, of course I know. That guy has turned traditional Chinese medicine upside down. You can't let him run away. Just tell me, right? Chapter 344. Qin Haodong thought to himself, people say that women with big breasts have no brains. It seems that there are exceptions. This woman is obviously a typical negative example. She is as beautiful as a fox but as smart as a little fox. Nothing can escape her eyes. You're right. We're here for Wang Deshang. I'll go with you. I'm very familiar with the airport. I can help you. Hu Shaoxian was a member of the special department. She was connected to many aspects, especially the airport. Well, let's go together, Qin Haodong said. He stretched out his fingers and calculated, then walked in one direction. Hu Shaoxian said, what are you doing? Do you have to rely on fortune-telling to catch people? You'll know in a minute. As they spoke, the three of them arrived at the VIP passage. Hu Shaoxian said hello to the head of security here, and the three of them entered the VIP passage together. In the VIP lounge, a middle-aged man in his 50s was sitting on the sofa, drinking coffee and reading a newspaper. He was dressed in an expensive suit and had an elegant demeanor. He looked like a successful man. He raised his left hand and looked at the million-yuan Rolex watch on his wrist. He couldn't help but smile proudly. In 10 minutes he would completely leave Wuxia. Just then he saw the three people coming in through the door. His expression suddenly changed slightly, and he hid his whole face behind the newspaper. Qin Haodong and the other two went straight to the middle-aged man and said with a playful expression, Wang Deshang, You didn't expect that we would meet again so soon, did you? The middle-aged man slowly put down the newspaper in his hand. He looked at Qin Haodong and the other two strangely and said, "Little brother, are you talking to me?" After seeing the man's appearance, Nalan Wuxia whispered, "Haodong, you're not mistaken, are you?" Qin Haodong said without hesitation, "I'm not mistaken. He's Wang Deshang." "What are you talking about? I don't know you and I don't know Wang Deshang." The middle-aged man took out his ticket and ID card. "My name is Martin and I'm from M country. Don't harass me or I'll call security." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Wang Deshang, you're really boring." He grabbed the middle-aged man's collar and lifted him up from the sofa. He tore off his shirt and rubbed it on his chest. Then he tore off a mask from his face. After the mask was removed, Wang Deshang's handsome face was revealed, but it looked a little pale at the moment. Hu Shaoxian took the mask from Qin Haodong's hand and praised, "It's really good. I didn't know it was fake." Qin Haodong said, "This is made with the latest nanomaterials and 3D technology. Skin the mask is much more advanced. Most people wouldn't be able to tell." After that he looked at Wang Deshang again. "What do you think? The game wasn't over yet. Aren't you surprised?" Wang Deshang asked, "How did you find me?" "Well, I'm in a good mood now, so I'll satisfy your curiosity." Qin Haodong said, "I suspected you when I came out of the Jiangnan crime squad last time. Remember when I patted you on the shoulder? At that time I used a little trick on you. I can find you no matter where you hide within 1,000 miles. It turned out that when Qin Haodong patted Wang Deshang on the shoulder that day, he secretly put a talisman on him. This was a tracking talisman specially used to find people. When Wang Deshang disappeared, Qin Haodong activated the talisman, so he rushed to the airport with Nalan Wuxia as soon as possible. It was also because of the talisman that he knew without looking that the middle-aged man was Wang Deshang in disguise. Wang Deshang's face was gray. He said in frustration, "Well, you're better than me." Then he took a handkerchief out of his pocket and raised his hand to wipe the corners of his mouth. However, as soon as his wrist was raised, Qin Haodong grabbed it. An imperceptible panic flashed in Wang Deshang's eyes. Then he shouted angrily, "You've won. What else do you want?" Qin Haodong smiled and pinched Wang Deshang's palm. There was a small white pill in his palm. He took the pill and looked at it. Then he said, "Is this the secret you used to deceive me twice?" Wang Deshang's face was completely disappointed. He didn't expect that everything about him would be uncovered by the man in front of him. Not only did he find his whereabouts, but he also knew the secret of the pill. Qin Haodong reached out and poked Wang Deshang's clavicle acupoint. This time Wang Deshang couldn't move his arms. Then he checked Wang Deshang's mouth. After making sure there were no poisonous teeth, he took Wang Deshang to an empty room. This was also the room that Hu Shaoxian had asked for from the head of security. It was very quiet and no one would disturb them. Entering the room, Qin Haodong said to Wang Deshang, "It's time to solve some secrets. Tell me who's your boss. What's your purpose in coming to Wuxia?" As he spoke, he used mind manipulating again. This time, without the obstruction of the pill, Wang Deshang's eyes flashed with confusion. Then he said, "Davis from Wilson Company asked me to come. The blood revival elixir you developed seriously hindered our way of making money. He tried several times but failed to overthrow you or get the formula, so he thought of killing the chicken before killing the egg. Traditional Chinese medicine is the chicken, and your traditional Chinese medicine company is just an egg. As long as traditional Chinese medicine collapses, your company will naturally be finished. According to the task he gave me when I return to Wuxia this time, I will first set up a traditional Chinese medicine organization. When it becomes famous, I will create negative news and bring down traditional Chinese medicine." "Damn Wilson Company." Qin Haodong cursed angrily. Then he asked, "What happened to Zhang Guoyang's death?" 10 minutes later, Qin Haodong got all the secrets out of Wang Deshang, including Zhang Guoyang's family secret formula of Jiubao kidney-nourishing pill, and how Zhang Tianhe had died. This included how Wang Deshang had planned to discredit traditional Chinese medicine and how he had premeditated to register Che Xiaoxiao as a legal person to take the bullet for him. Qin Haodong asked again, "There's one thing I don't understand. You are the young master of the Wang family. Why didn't you become a rich young master instead of a dog for Davis?" Wang Deshang said, "I had no choice. I had a car accident in M country, which caused serious damage to my heart. Later, I replaced it with the latest artificial heart developed by Wilson Company. Since then, my life has been in the hands of Davis. If he wanted to, he could stop my heart at any time. I had no choice but to join the current organization." "Organization? What organization did you join? Isn't it Wilson Company? Wang Deshang shook his head and said, the organization is very, very powerful. It's more powerful than you can imagine. Davis and I are both small members of the organization, but his level is a little higher than mine. Qin Haodong was slightly shocked. He hadn't expected such a powerful organization to exist. He asked, what does your organization do? What's its name? Wang Deshang said, I don't know. The organization is too mysterious. People at my level don't deserve to know its name, let alone know what the organization does. I just need to follow the orders of the organization. Qin Haodong turned to look at Hu Shaoxian and asked, do you know such an organization? Hu Shaoxian shook her head and said, it's the first time I've heard of it. After that, Qin Haodong asked a few more questions, but he didn't get any more answers. Qin Haodong's anger, which had been suppressed in his heart for many days, finally broke out. He first removed the mind-manipulating, then raised his hand and slapped Wang Deshang in the face. Although Qin Haodong didn't use his internal strength, Wang Deshang was whipped into the air like a spinning top. He hit the wall behind him and fell to the ground with a thud. Bastard, this is for traditional Chinese medicine. After cursing, Qin Haodong kicked Wang Deshang's lower abdomen again. He kicked Wang Deshang to the ceiling like a ball and then fell to the ground again. Son of a bitch, this is for Che Xiaoxiao. In less than 5 minutes, Qin Haodong's punches and kicks had turned Wang Deshang from a handsome young man into a pig's head that even his mother couldn't recognize. His eyes were red and swollen, and the corners of his mouth were bleeding. It was a horrible sight. Wang Deshang's clavicle acupoint was restricted, so he couldn't even raise his hand to wipe the blood from the corners of his mouth. However, he was still tough. He looked at Qin Haodong and said, kill me if you can. According to what you've done, it's not a pity to die 100 times. But you can't die now. You have to make up for what you've done. Qin Haodong took out a rope and tied Wang Deshang up like a dog. He pulled him out of the airport and into Naylan Wuxia's business car. After getting in the car, Qin Haodong quickly dialed Lin Momo's number and briefly introduced Wang Deshang's situation. Then he said, inform all the major media immediately. There will be a press conference in the conference room of Tangmen Company in 2 hours. I'll give them an explanation about all the recent events of traditional Chinese medicine. Lin Momo said, that's great. Then Xiaoxiao will be saved. I'll send the notice now. Qin Haodong hung up the phone and drove straight to Jiangnan City. Lin Momo said, Haodong, fortunately you reacted fast enough. If Wang Deshang really ran away, things would be really difficult to deal with. Qin Haodong was not so relaxed. He said seriously, I didn't expect that there was such an organization behind Davis. If we don't uproot this organization, there will be a lot of trouble in the future. Wang Deshang said, Qin Haodong, stop dreaming. The power of the organization is beyond your imagination. If I can't get better, you can't either. After saying that, he laughed crazily. Boy, how dare you threaten my man. You'd better think about how to eat in prison. Hu Shaoxian said as she directly used a rope to strangle Wang Deshang's mouth. The car quickly left the airport and drove onto the road back to Jiangnan City. This was a separate road connecting the airport and the city, so there were not many vehicles coming and going. Suddenly, a large van drove over and then suddenly stopped in the middle of the road. Then there was another ear-piercing screech of brakes coming from behind. Another van blocked the road behind them. 2 large vans divided the road into a dead end, blocking Qin Haodong's business car in the middle. It's dangerous. Get out of the car. Qin Haodong said as he grabbed Wang Deshang, kicked the door open and jumped out. Naylan Wuxia and Hu Shaoxian followed him. As soon as they jumped out of the car, there was a burst of dense bullets behind them. The business car was hit like a beehive. Fortunately, they were extremely fast. Before the other side adjusted the direction of the fire, they jumped into a small forest on the side of the road and hid themselves. At this time, more than a dozen gunmen in black jumped out of the van and quickly surrounded them while shooting. Naylan Wuxia pulled out the pistol from her waist and began to fight back. However, the firepower was so fierce that she couldn't raise her head for a while. Chapter 345. Qin Haodong guessed that these people were here for Wang Deshang. As long as he was killed, the current dilemma of traditional Chinese medicine would be unsolvable. He hid Wang Deshang behind a big tree and then looked back at the men in black. These people wore black clothes and black pants and black hoods, covering their heads from head to toe. Each of them had an AK in their hands. They were shooting wildly at Qin Haodong, and the bullets hit the bark of the tree. Qin Haodong observed the direction of the wind and found that he was in the limelight. He took out an ecstasy pill from his pocket and crushed it gently. This pill was also strange. It was a black pill when it was intact, but once it was crushed, it immediately turned into invisible powder in the air and drifted with the wind toward the men in black. Originally, the men in black were fighting excitedly with their AKs and quickly moved towards the small forest. But suddenly, as if they were drunk, they fell to the ground one after another. Nalan Wuxia was originally angry with these men in black. Even though her marksmanship was excellent, a pistol could do nothing against so many AKs. At this time, seeing these people fall to the ground, she immediately raised her pistol and shot them, killing them all with one shot. No wonder she wanted to kill them. At this time it was either you die or I die. No one knew when these people would get up again. Once these people completed the encirclement, the three of them would definitely die. After all the gunmen were killed, the three of them breathed a sigh of relief. Hu Shaoxian said in a sweet voice, "Little man, how did you do it?" "I love you so much." "Nothing, I just used a little medicine." Qin Haodong threw 2 small pills to Hu Shaoxian and Nalan Wuxia. "This is the antidote for the ecstasy pill. You take it first." "So that's how it is. No wonder I feel dizzy." Hu Shaoxian put the pill into her sexy little mouth and swallowed it. Although she and Nalan Wuxia had entered the threshold of covert power, the ecstasy pill could not make them faint immediately. But it would always slow down their reaction speed and make them feel uncomfortable. Qin Haodong reached out and grabbed Wang Deshang. He walked out from behind the tree and stepped in front of the men in black. Nalan Wuxia stepped forward and pulled off the hood of a man in black, revealing a white face. It seemed that these people were sent by Wilson Company from M country. Hu Shaoxian said, "These people are here to kill Wang Deshang?" Qin Haodong said, "That should be the case. As long as Wang Deshang is killed, many cases involving traditional Chinese medicine will become dead. It will be even more difficult for traditional Chinese medicine to clear its name." At this moment, a round of applause came from the side. "That's right. We're here to kill Wang Deshang. But I have to add one more thing, the three of you will die as well." Qin Haodong and the other two immediately looked in the direction of the sound and saw 3 people coming from the back of the truck. The first one was a woman with purple hair, followed by 2 men. This woman was a typical Western Caucasian woman. She was more than 180 meters tall, but she also had 2 super big peaks on her chest and a big bulging butt behind her. She was very sexy. One of the 2 men behind her was tall and strong, weighing 150 kilograms. With the thick hair unique to Westerners, he looked like a walking giant bear. The other one was much more normal. He was about 175 meters tall and thin, but his eyes were as sharp as a wolf's. All 3 of them were unarmed, but they gave Qin Haodong and the others a great sense of danger. Nalan Wuxia immediately raised the pistol in her hand, pointed it at the 3 men and asked, "Who are you? What are you doing here? Put down the toy in your hand." "It doesn't work on us," the tall woman said, "but I'm willing to answer your question. I'm Terminator number 1. She pointed to the tall man next to her and said, "He's Terminator number 2. You can guess the last one. He's Terminator number 3. "Terminator?" Hu Shaoxian looked at the tall woman with a charming smile and said, "Have you watched too many Hollywood movies? You're not going to tell me that you're from the future, are you?" The tall woman laughed and said, "It doesn't matter whether we're from the future or not. Our mission is to end your lives. You'll know how powerful we are in a moment." Qin Haodong said, "You think too much. Huaxia is not a place where you can come." The tall woman said, "You don't understand our strength, Huaxia people. Now we're going to carry out the first task to end the life of this loser." As she spoke, she looked sharply at Wang Deshang next to her. Under the gaze of the tall woman, Wang Deshang seemed to have felt the breath of death. He cried in horror, "No, you can't kill me. I've tried my best. You can't do this." Qin Haodong took a step forward and protected Wang Deshang behind him. He said, "This man deserves to die, but not now. He's still useful to us." "You're wrong. He must die, and now." The tall woman winked at Qin Haodong, then took out a black remote control from her pocket and pressed a red button on it with her thumb. A great sense of crisis came. Qin Haodong immediately realized that something was wrong. He hurriedly shouted to Nalan Wuxia and Hu Shaoxian, "Run, there's a bomb." After saying that, he leaped and hid in a small ditch at the side. Hearing his shout, Nalan Wuxia and Hu Shaoxian did not hesitate and immediately dodged to both sides. At the same time, there was a loud bang where Wang Deshang was, and a huge wave of air mixed with flesh and blood swept out in all directions. When the 3 of them got up from the ground and looked back, the place where Wang Deshang had just stood had become a huge deep pit. Wang Deshang had become minced meat all over the ground. Not even a complete bone was left, which showed the power of the bomb. Qin Haodong was very upset. He hadn't expected that these people had installed a bomb in Wang Deshang's body. The tall woman seemed to see through his mind. She laughed and said, "You didn't expect it, did you? The heart installed in his body is actually a bomb. The organization needs him to beat normally when he is alive. Now that the organization doesn't need him alive, he must be killed immediately. Well, now that the first task is completed, the second task is to end the lives of the three of you." Then she smiled at Qin Haodong and said, "Wuxia man, you are really handsome. Let me end your life." As she spoke, she twisted her sexy body and slowly walked toward Qin Haodong. At the same time, Terminator number 2 rushed to Nalan Wuxia, and Terminator number 3 rushed to Hu Shaoxian. Qin Haodong frowned slightly. He couldn't see any warrior's aura from the tall woman in front of him, but she gave him a great sense of threat. "Wuxia man, let me break your neck," the tall woman said. She stretched out her white and tender arms and grabbed Qin Haodong's neck. The speed of this claw didn't seem to be fast, but when it approached Qin Haodong's neck, the arms suddenly became much longer. The hand also turned into a sharp claw and grabbed Qin Haodong's throat. It came so suddenly that an ordinary person would have been killed by this claw. Fortunately, Qin Haodong had rich combat experience and had always been on guard throughout the city. He slightly leaned to one side and dodged the attack. Then he suddenly punched the woman in the chest. "Wuxia man, do you like it here too?" the tall woman shouted. She did not avoid the punch at all, but directly met the towering mountain. With a muffled bang, Qin Haodong's punch solidly hit the elastic mountain peak. However, the tall woman's body twisted strangely, which dissolved most of the force of his punch. She stepped back a few steps and did not suffer much damage. Qin Haodong was slightly surprised. Although he only used 50% of his strength in this punch, it was enough to break the stone, but it was so easily resolved by the woman. "How about it? Wuxia man, does it feel good? Do you want to touch it again?" the tall woman said and raised a long leg which was like a long whip, to Qin Haodong's head. Her legs had the same function as her arms. They could be long or short, and it was impossible to defend against them when she attacked. Qin Haodong moved his feet and came behind the tall woman. He used a small grappling hand to grab the tall woman's arms. If it was an ordinary person, this move was enough to subdue her, but the tall woman's arms seemed to be dislocated and were not restricted by the grappling hand at all. Her body twisted at a strange angle, she opened her mouth, and her scarlet tongue shot at Qin Haodong's throat like a javelin. "What the hell is this monster?" Qin Haodong hurriedly stepped back, and at the same time he kicked the tall woman's butt, kicking her 7 or 8 meters away. "Wuxia man, I didn't expect you to have some skills." The tall woman put her javelin-like tongue back in her mouth, licked her scarlet lips and said coquettishly, "How about it? Is it fun?" In the face of such a monster, Qin Haodong naturally did not hold back and slapped the tall woman in the face. In the face of such a blow, the tall woman did not avoid it. She stretched out her sharp claws like steel knives to grab Qin Haodong's heart. Qin Haodong leaned to one side and avoided the claws. At the same time, he kept his palm and slapped the tall woman's cheek hard. A strange scene happened. After the tall woman's head was slapped, she spun 3 times like a top, but her body did not move at all. This kind of rotation offloaded Qin Haodong's palm force, and then her head turned back and soon returned to normal. However, this seemed to make the tall woman very uncomfortable. She said angrily, "Wuxia man, you have angered me." With that, she waved her 2 sharp claws and rushed to Qin Haodong again. While they were fighting, the other 4 people were also fighting. The tall Terminator number 2 was like a giant bear. He was not only powerful but also had amazing defense. Hu Shaoxian, who had reached the 5th level of covert power, was forced to retreat after a few moves with him. "What a monster." Hu Shaoxian said so, but she did not take this big heavy guy seriously. With a flash of purple light, the purple flash sword appeared in her palm. Terminator number 2 rushed over again, and the purple flash sword shot out and stabbed him in the chest. But she did not expect that this guy's defense was so strong. Hu Shaoxian originally thought that this sword could pierce through his chest, but only about an inch in, it was locked by the solid muscles and could not go any further. Terminator number 2 let out a roar and slapped her. Hu Shaoxian quickly withdrew the purple flash sword and dodged the blow. Finally, the 2 of them fought together. Terminator number 2's defense was amazing, but his speed was too slow. In the end, he was still suppressed by Hu Shaoxian. In the constant roar, his body was wounded by the purple flash sword one after another. In contrast, Nalan Wuxia was in a much more difficult situation. She raised her gun and shot at Terminator number 3, but the guy was so fast that the bullets hit only a shadow. Finally, the claw grabbed at her face. Chapter 346. In this kind of close combat, the pistol was no longer useful. Nalan Wuxia could only throw away the gun in her hand and then punch Terminator number 3's claws. When the fist and the claws met, the two of them stepped back 4 or 5 steps. They were evenly matched in this hard fight. However, Terminator number 3 did not stop. Once again he turned into a shadow and rushed to Nalan Wuxia, taking advantage of his speed to the extreme. Although Nalan Wuxia had entered the threshold of the covert power warrior, she still had relatively little combat experience. Moreover, Terminator number 3 was too fast. She was firmly suppressed by him and was in danger for a while. After seeing her critical situation, Qin Haodong knew that he could not delay any longer. He had to solve the battle as soon as possible. He stretched out his right hand, and the 1,000 blades appeared in his palm, turning into a sky full of knife light that drowned the tall woman's figure. As the Terminator, number 1 Caucasian was the strongest, but it was all reflected in her weird ability and strong body. She couldn't compete with Qin Haodong in terms of speed and moves. Soon she was pierced in the chest by the 1,000 blades. However, there was no blood coming out of this stab. On the contrary, the tall woman used this opportunity to attack with 2 sharp claws. One clawed at Qin Haodong's face and the other clawed at his heart. Qin Haodong lifted his leg and kicked her away. Then he adjusted his offensive strategy. Since the stab didn't work, he would chop. He slashed at the tall woman's shoulder and directly cut off her left arm. The tall woman let out a scream, but there was no blood flowing out of her shoulder. She grabbed the arm that fell to the ground and pressed it back again. The shocking scene happened again. A few seconds later, the severed arm grew again, and there was no difference from before. Qin Haodong frowned. He didn't know who made this monster. Her body was so strong. But no matter how strong she was, it depended on whether she grew faster or he cut faster. Thinking of this, his speed suddenly increased. Before the tall woman could react, the 1,000 blades had cut off her newly grown left arm. Then he cut off her right arm, left leg, and finally cut off her head. In the blink of an eye, the tall woman's body was cut into 6 pieces. The tall woman's body was really strong. In this case, she was still alive. The severed limbs were constantly wriggling and seemed to have a tendency to close together. How is he still not dead? Qin Haodong waved the 1,000 blades again and divided the broken limbs into 5 or 6 pieces. This time, the tall woman was completely dead and there was no sign of wriggling. After dealing with the tall woman, he turned around and pounced on Terminator number 3. At this time, Nalan Wuxia was forced to retreat step by step. Her uniform was torn in many places, and she looked extremely embarrassed. However, the speed that Terminator number 3 was proud of was nothing in front of Qin Haodong. Under the powerful spirit, everything was illusory. The light of the 1,000 blades flashed and pierced into Terminator number 3's back. Terminator number 3 let out a beast-like howl. The knife had pierced his heart. He didn't have the strong recovery ability of the Caucasian. After struggling on the ground for a few times, he stopped moving. Nalan Wuxia had just been angered by this guy. She picked up the pistol from the ground and fired all the bullets at his body. Now he could not be more dead. After dealing with Terminator number 3, Qin Haodong, Nalan Wuxia, and Hu Shaoxian surrounded Terminator number 2. Although this guy's defensive ability was amazing, he couldn't resist the attack of 3 internal strength masters. Soon, Qin Haodong's 1,000 blades pierced the back of his head. The battle was completely over. Hu Shaoxian breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I really don't know where these monsters came from. They are so difficult to deal with." Thinking of the genetic biohuman who had pretended to be Tang Long, Qin Haodong said, "This should be the biohuman made by Wilson Company. I didn't expect it to be so strong." Hu Shaoxian's expression was rare and serious. She said, "I didn't expect M country to develop this kind of thing. I have to report it to my superiors. At the same time, I have to hand in the bodies of these monsters." While she was talking, Qin Haodong felt a wave of energy from the 3 Terminator monsters. Thinking of the explosion of the fake Tang Long, he quickly shouted, "These things are going to explode." After that, he jumped and pressed Nalan Wuxia and Hu Shaoxian under him. Bo, bo, bo. A series of explosions sounded. The bodies of the tall woman and the other 2 people were blown to pieces, leaving no intact flesh and blood. After the explosion, the 3 people stood up from the ground. Hu Shaoxian patted the dust on her body and said, "Damn it, these people are really cunning. I was just about to say that I would hand them in for research, but they exploded directly." Qin Haodong said, "They should have been prepared for it. They were afraid that we would get evidence." Hu Shaoxian said, "Then I have to take some back. It's good even if there is some minced meat. At least the scientific research department can see how their genes are modified." After that, she took out a plastic bag from her pocket, picked up a few pieces of the larger body parts from the ground and put them away. Although Nalan Wuxia had been a criminal police officer for so many years, she still felt sick when she saw the minced meat. She couldn't help but admire Hu Xiaoxian's strong heart. At this time, sirens sounded on both sides of the road. The road was closed by 2 vans. There were gunshots and explosions here. Someone had already called the police. More than a dozen police cars drove over, and nearly 100 policemen surrounded the place. Nalan Wuxia stayed to deal with the aftermath. She requisitioned a police car and gave it to Qin Haodong, asking him to return to Jiangnan City as soon as possible. Soon after he got in the car, Qin Haodong's cell phone rang. It was Lin Momo. Haodong, the press conference will begin in half an hour. Now many reporters have arrived at our company. Why haven't you come back yet? Oh, I had some trouble on the way. I'll be back soon. Qin Haodong hung up the phone and stepped on the accelerator with his right foot. The police car roared and rushed forward. Hu Xiaoxian said, Wang Deshang is dead. How are you going to explain it to those reporters? Well, Qin Haodong realized this key problem. Originally, he wanted Wang Deshang to clarify the truth of the incident to all the media, saying that it was just a conspiracy and had nothing to do with traditional Chinese medicine. But now that Wang Deshang had exploded into pieces, it would be difficult to convince the media reporters with his words alone. What should he do? Cancel the press conference? That was impossible. The news had been released, and now many reporters were waiting at Tangmen Company. If he couldn't explain it now, it would inevitably cause a strong negative effect. Moreover, this matter couldn't be avoided. Sooner or later, the people of Wuxia and the government had to give an explanation. Thinking of this, Qin Haodong's forehead was covered in cold sweat. For a moment he couldn't think of a better way. Hu Xiaoxian glanced at him and said with a charming smile, Little man, I have a way to help you solve this problem. What is it? Tell me quickly. Qin Haodong said eagerly. Here is the way. Hu Xiaoxian said as she raised her finger to her towering chest. She was wearing a black suit today. Between the 2 lapels, large areas of her fair skin and bottomless cleavage were exposed. Especially the curve of the hillside, it gave people a kind of soul-stirring visual feeling. Qin Haodong swallowed hard and said, Don't make trouble. How can you still make such a joke with me at this time? If you want to solve the problem today, you can only rely on it. Hu Xiaoxian smiled slyly, clapped her hands and pointed to her chest. Oh, how is this possible? Qin Haodong's face was full of disbelief. Hu Xiaoxian grabbed his right hand and pressed it directly to her chest. No, Xiaoxian, I really can't. I'm driving now. While Qin Haodong was refusing, he suddenly felt something in his hand. It was hard, so it shouldn't be that feeling. He held it in front of his eyes and saw that it was the brooch pinned to Hu Xiaoxian's collar. What is this? He asked in surprise. People from special departments like us usually carry a well-hidden camera when we go out. This brooch is it. I recorded you interrogating Wang Deshang at the airport just now. I'll play it for the reporters to see later. Oh my God, Xiaoxian, thank you so much. Qin Haodong stepped on the brake, then hugged Hu Xiaoxian and kissed her hard. He fiddled with the brooch in his hand and said excitedly, This is really a life-saving thing. The reputation of traditional Chinese medicine depends on it. Then what did you think I wanted you to see? Hu Xiaoxian stared at Qin Haodong with charming eyes. I thought you wanted me to see here. Qin Haodong said as he glanced at the scenery inside the collar. He couldn't help but swallow again. Do you want to see it? Hu Xiaoxian said in a sweet voice. Yes, No, I mean let's go back quickly or the press conference will start soon. Qin Haodong said, then he started the car again and continued to speed forward. Hu Xiaoxian said, Little man, this brooch is mine. I didn't say it's free for you to use. If you want to use it, you have to promise me one thing. What is it? Qin Haodong had a bad premonition. My condition is that you sleep with me tonight. Oh, that's not good. Qin Haodong said and couldn't help glancing at Hu Xiaoxian's collar again. The night they slept together flashed in his mind. Do you promise me or not? If not, give the brooch back to me. You find a way yourself. Hu Xiaoxian said as she reached for the brooch. Qin Haodong quickly shouted, Yes. I promise. Hu Xiaoxian scratched his palm with her finger and said, That's what you said. Remember, you have to listen to me tonight. Qin Haodong's body trembled slightly. This little vixen didn't want him to drive properly. The conference room of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company was already full of people. Not only were there reporters from all over the country, but Pan Gaofeng and Ho Weiguo also heard the news and rushed over. In the past 2 days, They had been troubled by the problem of Hall of Medical Fame's kidney tonic tablet. They were looking forward to Qin Haodong bringing them a miracle. It was already the appointed time, but they still hadn't seen Qin Haodong's shadow. What's going on? Hasn't Dr. Qin come yet? Ho Weiguo looked at his watch with an anxious look on his face. The reporters under the stage began to whisper. It was clearly the notice issued by Tangmen Company. Why hadn't there been any movement yet? Just when everyone was impatient, the door of the conference room opened. Qin Haodong hurried in with Hu Xiaoxian. Lin Momo greeted them and said, "Haodong, are you ready? Do you want me to postpone the time of the press conference?" No. Qin Haodong took out the miniature memory card from the brooch and gave it to Lin Momo. He said, "Play this data on the big screen immediately." After that, he sat on the rostrum and said to the reporters under the stage, "There was something special just now. We'll talk about it later. Please watch a video first, and then you'll find the answer you want." Chapter 347. The audience was curious about the beautiful woman who walked in with Qin Haodong, and what Qin Haodong was going to show them. At this time, the big screen in the conference room lit up and a video file began to play. A middle-aged man in his 50s first appeared on the big screen. His face was strange and no one had seen him before. Everyone was curious about why Qin Haodong showed them this. Then a shocking scene appeared. Qin Haodong took the mask off the man. It was Wang Deshang, the boss of the Wuxia Hall of Medical Fame. Isn't that Wang Deshang? Why did he run? That's right. Although something happened to the Wuxia Hall of Medical Fame, he is just an investor. What does it have to do with him? If you don't do anything shameful, you won't be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. Since you want to sneak out of the country, you must have done something shameful. The video continued to play and everyone slowly quieted down. The next scene showed Qin Haodong interrogating Wang Deshang. As time went by, the truth slowly emerged. It turned out that all of this was Wang Deshang's plot. He was the mastermind behind the scenes. From the day he returned to Wuxia, his conspiracy began. He had established the Wuxia Hall of Medical Fame and registered the legal person as Che Xiaoxiao. He had organized the Chinese Medicine Association to provide free medical services. He had faked his death to blackmail the man. It was really arranged by Wang Deshang. Zhang Tianhe had killed 3 people. It was not a medical accident at all. It had been arranged by Wang Deshang. Wang Deshang had killed Zhang Tianhe afterward and cremated him the next day. The accident of the blood revival elixir killing people was also planned by him to discredit traditional Chinese medicine. The treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame was a big conspiracy. Wang Deshang had first killed Zhang Guoyang and seized the remnant prescription of the Jiubao kidney nourishing pill. Then he had sent someone to send the prescription to the Chinese Medicine Practitioner Association, but Qin Haodong had seen through him and failed. Then the Wuxia Hall of Medical Fame began to violate the regulations. The approval documents were forged and the drugs were poisonous. The ultimate purpose of the sales was to discredit traditional Chinese medicine. When Wang Deshang said all these things one by one, everyone suddenly realized that Wang Deshang had returned to Wuxia not to develop traditional Chinese medicine, but to destroy it completely. When the video finished playing, everyone present was boiling with excitement. Bastard Wang Deshang is a traitor. He must be sentenced to death. This kind of person's conscience has been fed to the dogs. He will definitely die a horrible death. Support traditional Chinese medicine, support Dr. Qin. Long live traditional Chinese medicine, long live Dr. Qin. After a full 5 minutes, the people's anger slowly subsided. A reporter asked, "Dr. Qin, where is Wang Deshang? Why did you only show us a video? Why didn't you let him come to the scene to explain things clearly?" Qin Haodong said, "I just said that I encountered a special situation. Now I'll tell you what it is. On our way back, we were ambushed by killers from M country. Their purpose was to kill Wang Deshang and conceal the truth. Their ultimate goal was to destroy traditional Chinese medicine and ban it. The men activated the remote control they had installed on Wang Deshang. Blast the bomb had blown him to pieces. Now there was no Wang Deshang in the world. It was impossible for him to attend the press conference. The other party killed Wang Deshang, but they didn't expect us to save this video before. Now the truth of these cases has come to light. Che Xiaoxiao is a victim, and so are the patients who took the treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame. Even the whole traditional Chinese medicine is a victim of this conspiracy." The audience was speechless. What Qin Haodong said was beyond many people's expectations. In the eyes of many people, the world was peaceful and beautiful. They hadn't expected such a thing to happen. Another reporter asked, "Dr. Qin, Are you sure you're not telling us a story or joking? Qin Haodong said, Captain Nalan Wuxia of the Criminal Police Unit also encountered the killers with us. She is now dealing with the situation at the scene. I believe the police will give you an answer later. Hearing that the captain of the Criminal Police Unit had encountered the killers with Qin Haodong, no one questioned the authenticity of the incident. A reporter asked, Dr. Qin, I still have a question. You just said that Wang Deshang returned to Wuxia under the mandate of a foreign organization. The purpose was to discredit traditional Chinese medicine and destroy it. But as far as I know, traditional Chinese medicine is declining day by day. It can't be compared with Western medicine at all. Is it worth it? Qin Haodong said, That's a simple question. I'll calculate it for you. The price of Constantine produced by Wilson's company is 500 yuan in Tianzhu, and the cost is only dozens of yuan. Their price is 28,000 yuan per box. The most important thing is that it's only used by leukemia patients in a month. It's more than 300,000 yuan a year. There are more than 4 million leukemia patients in Wuxia. You can calculate how much profit they make in a year. It's higher than the profit of drug trafficking and there's no risk. They're drinking the blood of Wuxia people. Since the birth of the blood revival elixir, leukemia patients in Wuxia no longer need to take Constantine. This alone has caused immeasurable losses to Wilson's company. Now do you think it's worth it? The audience was in an uproar. Many people realized for the first time that the pharmaceutical industry had such high profits. Another reporter stood up and asked, Dr. Qin, many people on the internet are clamoring that traditional Chinese medicine is unscientific and calling for its abolition and replacement by Western medicine. Especially after the incident of the treasure tablet for kidney in the Hall of Medical Fame, many well-known experts and scholars have jumped out and called for the abolition of traditional Chinese medicine. As a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, what do you think? In fact, it doesn't matter whether traditional Chinese medicine is important or whether it should be abolished. I'll give you 2 points. I don't need to say anything. You'll know what to think. The first point is whether traditional Chinese medicine is scientific or not. Science is a good thing, but human beings are far from being scientific. Many things can't be explained by science, such as the world-famous Bermuda Triangle, the hanging coffins in Wuxia, and the pyramids in ancient Egypt. There are no problems with other things, but traditional Chinese medicine can't. Why can't traditional Chinese medicine work? It's because the existence of traditional Chinese medicine affects the interests of many people. As a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, I'm not used to explaining traditional Chinese medicine from a scientific point of view. If you want to verify whether traditional Chinese medicine is scientific or not, you can look back at the history of human development. Wuxia has a culture of 5,000 years. Since ancient times, people in Wuxia have been using traditional Chinese medicine and eating traditional Chinese medicine. Western medicine has only a history of 100 years in Wuxia. In the Song dynasty, the population of Wuxia accounted for more than 40% of the world's population, almost half of the world's population. Even 100 years ago, the population of Wuxia was more than 500 million, accounting for 1/3 of the world's population. It was the most populous country in the world. What did Wuxia rely on to have such a large population? In terms of physical fitness, we can't compare to the tall white people in Europe and America. In terms of reproduction, we can't compare to the black people in Africa. The reason why we can have such a large population is because of our advanced medical technology. In the history of human development, the Black Death in Europe killed nearly 100 million people, but Wuxia was fine. The Spanish influenza killed 75 million people, but Wuxia was fine. The Justinian plague killed 25 million people, but Wuxia was fine. Looking at the top 10 infectious diseases in the world with the number of deaths, not a single one has happened in Wuxia. What did we rely on? Could it be that he relied on luck? Of course not, it's our magical traditional Chinese medicine. A medical skill that has been protecting the people of Wuxia for thousands of years is now being questioned if it's scientific. I think it's a joke. Many people say that the meridians and acupoints of Wuxia traditional Chinese medicine can't be seen, so it's not scientific. But who says that what modern Western medicine can't explain and what modern science can't discover is not scientific? If it can't explain the magic of traditional Chinese medicine, it can only be said that the current scientific level is not high enough. It can only be said that the level of traditional Chinese medicine is high enough that the current scientific level can't reach it. At this point, the audience burst into thunderous applause and cheers. Well said, Dr. Qin's speech is so good. Chinese medicine is great, Dr. Qin is great. Long live Dr. Qin, we support you, we support traditional Chinese medicine, we want to carry forward our own things. When the applause subsided, Qin Haodong continued, let me talk about the second point. Why do so many people now say that traditional Chinese medicine is pseudoscience and that traditional Chinese medicine can't cure diseases? In fact, it's all about money. Now Wuxia occupies 1/4 of the world's population. From a medical point of view, it is undoubtedly the largest market. Even a little market share is enough to make countless people rich. There is no doubt that Western medicine is developed enough, but at the same time, its cost is high enough. I think everyone has felt the sky-high cost of treatment. A visit to the hospital can't be made without thousands or tens of thousands of yuan. A bottle of B-Constantine is as high as 28,000 yuan. Why is the price of Western medicine so high? Because they are foreign monks. They are the children of other people. They have the so-called patent fees, research and development fees, and all kinds of fees added to the heads of Wuxia people. But traditional Chinese medicine doesn't. It's a treasure left to us by our ancestors. No traditional Chinese medicine doctor will give you a prescription and charge you patent fees and research and development fees. In contrast, the treatment cost is low and the side effects are small. Traditional Chinese medicine naturally becomes the eyesore of the vested interests of Western medicine and Western medicine. Therefore, they do everything possible to suppress traditional Chinese medicine, discredit traditional Chinese medicine, and even want to uproot traditional Chinese medicine. In the final analysis, traditional Chinese medicine blocks their way of making money, and traditional Chinese medicine makes the cost of seeing a doctor low. Now some people who clamor that traditional Chinese medicine is pseudoscience are brainwashed by Western ideas. They don't know what traditional Chinese medicine is. They only know how to echo others. When they hear others say that traditional Chinese medicine is not scientific, they also say that traditional Chinese medicine is not scientific. It seems that only by saying that traditional Chinese medicine is not scientific can they keep up with the pace of the times. It seems that only by saying that traditional Chinese medicine is not scientific can they improve their own status. There are also some people who do things for money. They can get hundreds of thousands or even millions of yuan by saying that traditional Chinese medicine is pseudoscience. They are naturally willing to do it. Even if traditional Chinese medicine is really abolished and really disappears, they don't have to worry because they have entered the ranks of the rich. The money they get is enough for their families to pay the high cost of Western medicine, and they don't have to wait for death like ordinary people. At this point there was a silence. Qin Haodong's speech made everyone think. Everyone knew about the battle between traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine, but they had never thought about it so deeply. Qin Haodong said again, if Western medicine really replaces traditional Chinese medicine, what kind of changes will it bring to our lives? Some people say that without traditional Chinese medicine, the more scientific Western medicine can also cure diseases. But have you ever thought that without low-cost traditional Chinese medicine, Western medicine will become unscrupulous? The so-called research and development fees and patent fees will double. As long as you get a serious disease, you will either wait to die or wait to go bankrupt. Chapter 348. In the underground experimental base of M Country, 3 red dots suddenly exploded on the big electronic screen and finally disappeared from the screen. Bastard, my 3 Terminators were destroyed just like that. Garnett was furious. He turned to Davis and said, I told you not to use the Terminators to go to Wuxia. Now all 3 of the Terminators that I painstakingly developed are gone. How do you want me to explain this to the organization? Davis's face was livid. In order to ensure the smooth completion of Plan Number 2, he had sent the 3 Terminators to Wuxia to kill Wang Deshang. He had not expected that none of them would survive. They had all been left in Wuxia. He sighed and said, anyway, Wang Deshang was killed. I can ensure the smooth completion of my Plan Number 2. I'll explain it to my superiors then. Garnett yelled, explain what? Do you know how much it cost me to develop the 3 Terminators? I invested tens of billions of dollars and now it's all gone. Davis was also unhappy and yelled, what are you arguing about? Your tens of billions of dollars were all earned by Wilson's sales of medicine. If you don't bring down Tangmen Company, you won't get a penny in the future. Garnett still wanted to say something, but he thought that what Davis said made sense. Since the blood revival elixir had been on the market, Wilson's performance had plummeted. If it went on like this, it would not be far from bankruptcy. Davis's tone softened a little as he said, well, old man, let's not quarrel over this. Although 3 Terminators have died, we can develop better ones as long as we have money. Garnett said with hatred, no, I have to kill that Wuxia man for revenge. I want to tear him into pieces. Davis said, well, let's start plan number 4. In the Golden Branch and Jade Leaf Kindergarten, Wang Jiani was playing games with the children. Suddenly the door opened and Lin Momo walked in. Upon seeing Lin Momo, Wang Jiani said politely, Sister Momo, you're here. Lin Momo smiled and said, Miss Wang, I'm going to take Tang Tang to travel to Europe, so I picked her up from school early. Oh, traveling is a good thing. Wang Jiani said, when are you going? Is Dr. Qin going? At this time, the little fellow saw Lin Momo and ran into her arms. Mama, where are you going to take Tang Tang? I'll take you to Europe, to Disneyland. Lin Momo turned her head and said to Wang Jiani, this is a last-minute decision. Recently the company has been too busy. It's not easy to get a clue, so we're going out to relax. It's good to go out and have fun. I wish you 3 a pleasant trip. Wang Jiani waved to the little fellow. Bye Tang Tang. Goodbye teacher. I'll ask Papa to bring you a present. After saying that, the little fellow happily left the kindergarten with Lin Momo. After they went out, Lin Momo called a taxi. She got in the taxi and said to the driver, Sir, to Jiangnan Airport. We are in a hurry. Please drive faster. The driver started the car and said, Miss, you can't drive too fast, or you'll have to pay a fine. Lin Momo took out a stack of cash and threw it on the cab. Get to the airport in half an hour. This is all yours. It's enough to pay the fine. Yes, miss, please sit tight. Seeing these banknotes, the driver immediately stepped on the accelerator as if he had been injected with chicken blood. The taxi roared and sped forward. The little fellow said, Mama, where's our car? Why are we taking a taxi? Lin Momo said, I left the car with Papa. He'll drive to the airport later. Money talks. With the help of the money, the taxi rushed all the way and arrived at the Jiangnan airport in more than 20 minutes. Lin Momo hurried into the airport hall with the little fellow. She took out the tickets and relevant procedures that she had prepared, went through the security check and got on the plane. 10 minutes later, the plane took off and flew in the direction of M country. After Lin Momo and Tang Tang left, Wang Jiani continued to play games with the children. At this time, Xiao Li, the teaching assistant, ran over with a mobile phone. They had a good relationship and talked about everything. Sister Wang, your idol is holding a press conference. It's a live broadcast. Don't miss this opportunity, Xiao Li said and handed the mobile phone to Wang Jiani. On the screen, Qin Haodong was organizing a press conference in Jiangnan Company. Xiao Li exclaimed, Sister Wang, your idol is so handsome. He's so young and so rich. When will you introduce him to me? Looking at the handsome face on the screen, Wang Jiani's mood was extremely complicated. Qin Haodong was the best man she had ever seen, but unfortunately he did not belong to her. With a sigh, she moved her eyes away from Qin Haodong and saw Lin Momo sitting next to him. Hey, isn't this Sister Momo? You just left. Why are you at the meeting so soon? She turned to look at Xiao Li and asked, is this a live broadcast? Of course, this is a live broadcast by a reporter who attended the conference. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Wang Jiani's expression changed. Lin Momo had just left and there was another person sitting in the meeting. What was going on? Thinking of this, she had an extremely bad feeling. She quickly took out her mobile phone and dialed Qin Haodong's number. However, no one answered after a long time. He must have muted his phone during the meeting or didn't take it with him. Wang Jiani turned to Xiao Li and said, keep an eye on him for a while. I'm in a hurry. Sister Wang, what are you going to do? What should I say when the director asks me? Before Xiao Li could finish speaking, Wang Jiani had already rushed out of the classroom. She went to the gate of the kindergarten, took a taxi, and went straight to Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. At the conference, Qin Haodong finished his speech. Today's conference was undoubtedly quite successful. Not only did it wipe away the dirty water that Wang Deshang had poured on traditional Chinese medicine, but it also deepened people's understanding of traditional Chinese medicine and built up their confidence in it. After the conference, the reporters left one after another. Lin Momo looked at the man in front of her with affection. He was so excellent that he had easily helped traditional Chinese medicine get through the current difficulties. Hu Shaoxian stepped forward and said, good job, little man. I'll give you a like. Lin Momo sighed secretly. It was also troublesome for a man to be too excellent. He always had beautiful girls around him. At this moment, Wang Jiani rushed in from outside. Seeing Wang Jiani's anxious face, Qin Haodong was slightly stunned and asked, Ms. Wang, why are you here? Did I make trouble in the kindergarten? Now the little fellow's holy body was becoming more and more obvious. She was much stronger than other children of the same age. She would hurt other children if she didn't pay attention. At this time, when Wang Jiani came to find him, he naturally thought that the little fellow had made trouble again. Wang Jiani had no time to answer his question. She turned to Lin Momo and said, "Sister Momo, where's Tang Tang?" Lin Momo looked surprised and said, "Isn't Tang Tang in kindergarten?" Wang Jiani's body shook and she almost fell to the ground. Now she was sure that the Lin Momo who had just gone to the kindergarten had been impersonated. She had cheated Tang Tang. Qin Haodong sensed that something was wrong and quickly asked, "What's wrong, Ms. Wang? What happened?" "Tang Tang has been taken away." Wang Jiani hurriedly told him what had just happened and finally said, "I'm sorry, Dr. Qin. That person looks exactly like Miss Lin, so I gave Tang Tang to her." After experiencing so many disguises, Qin Haodong immediately understood that Davis must have asked someone to disguise herself as Lin Momo with a 3D mask made of nanomaterials and cheated Tang Tang. Hearing that her daughter had been taken away, Lin Momo immediately lost her usual calm and said nervously, "Haodong, Tang Tang has been taken away. What should we do? What should we do? She's still so young. She won't be hurt by those people, will she?" Wang Jiani then said, "Dr. Qin, shall we call the police? If we hurry we may be able to save Tang Tang." Qin Haodong was both worried and angry that his daughter had been kidnapped, but he was still rational. He grabbed Lin Momo's hand and comforted her, "Don't worry. Their purpose is not to hurt Tang Tang. Maybe they want our formula or they want to threaten me to work for them. Tang Tang will not be in danger before they achieve their purpose." Hearing Qin Haodong's analysis, Lin Momo slowly calmed down from the initial shock and panic and said, "What should we do now? I guess they should have taken Tang Tang to M country. I'll ask Waner to check it out." Qin Haodong dialed Qi Waner's number. After a brief explanation of the situation, he asked her to help him check the nearest plane from Jiangnan to M country to see if there was any information about Tang Tang. Qi Waner also knew that the situation was urgent, so she quickly called back and said, "According to the information an hour ago, Tang Tang boarded the plane with Sister Momo, and the direction was the capital of M country." After hanging up the phone, Qin Haodong said, "It's obvious that they kidnapped the little fellow to M country to make me go there. What should we do?" Lin Momo was suddenly in a dilemma. She was worried about her daughter, but she was also afraid that Qin Haodong would be in danger if he went there. After all, it was M country, not Wuxia. Qin Haodong said with a smile, "What else is there to ask? Of course I'm going to get my daughter back. But it's very dangerous for you to go there. After all, it's not our place." Qin Haodong said, "It doesn't matter. Don't you know my ability? I'm sure I'll bring Tang Tang back safely to you." Lin Momo said, "Then I'll go with you." Qin Haodong was speechless and said, "I'm going to save people. Why do you want to go with me? I'll have to take care of you when I save the little fellow. I'll be too busy." "But I'm worried about you going alone," Lin Momo said with a worried face. "Sister Momo, I'll go with him." It was Hu Shaoxian who spoke. She said, "I've been to M country many times so I'm familiar with it. I can also help Haodong." Qin Haodong thought for a moment. Hu Shaoxian was a member of the special department, so she knew all aspects of M country very well. She was the most suitable person to go with him. He said to Lin Momo, "I'll go with Shaoxian. You still need to stay in Tangmen company." Lin Momo also knew that she would only be a hindrance. She said, "Well, you must be careful. Don't worry. I promise you that I'll bring Tang Tang back to Wuxia safe and sound." Qin Haodong said as he kissed Lin Momo on the cheek. Then he left Tangmen company with Hu Shaoxian and went straight to Jiangnan airport. At the airport of the capital of M country, a large passenger plane slowly landed. Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian walked out of the airport together. Hu Shaoxian raised her hand and called a taxi. She said to the driver in fluent English, "To District 13. The driver was a black man. After hearing Hu Shaoxian's words, he asked in surprise, "Beautiful lady, are you sure? Are you really going to District 13? Chapter 349. Yes, we are going to Area 13, Qin Haodong said. His English was also good so he could communicate normally. "Oh my God, why are you going to that damn place?" The black driver said this, but he had already started the car, left the airport and headed for the road. Hu Shaoxian asked, "What's wrong with Area 13? The black driver said, "The security in that place is really bad. I can only take you to the periphery. I don't dare to go inside. Otherwise my car will be ruined. It will be smashed by those lawless guys. And beautiful women like you should not go there. If there is no bodyguard, I guarantee that you will be taken away in 5 seconds." Hu Shaoxian pointed to Qin Haodong and said with a smile, "He is my bodyguard. The black driver glanced at Qin Haodong's thin body and said, No, he can't do it at all. You don't know how strong and violent those guys are. A bodyguard like him can't protect you. On the contrary, he will be taken away by some people with special hobbies. Hearing the driver's words, Hu Shaoxian giggled. Qin Haodong said helplessly, Isn't this the capital of M country? Why is the security so bad? The black driver said, This is indeed the capital of M country. The security in other places is also very good, but that damn place in Area 13 is not good. Although it is a district, it is dozens of kilometers away from the urban area. Area 13 is a restricted area for the police. As long as no one dies, the police will not go there. Even if someone dies, the police will only go to collect the body because it is so messy there. The only way to deal with those guys is to send troops. After a pause, he continued, You're not from here, right? I really don't know who sent you there. It's no different from sending you to your death. Listen to me, don't go to that place or the consequences will be unimaginable. Seeing that the driver was kind-hearted, Qin Haodong said, In fact, we are not going to Area 13. We are going to a place 20 kilometers north of it. The coordinates were set by Chi Weiner. Davis had been active here recently, so it should be the location of their nest. Oh my God, are you talking about the Devil's Forest? The driver seemed to have heard something terrible. He stepped on the brake and said to the two of them, I can send you to the periphery of Area 13, but I will not go to a place like the Devil's Forest. Hu Shaoxian asked in surprise, Why? Wasn't that just a forest? Is it scarier than District 13? The black driver said, Devil's Forest, do you know why it's called Devil's Forest? Just because there are demons there, there's still hope to come out alive after entering Area 13, but not in the Demon Forest. It's been a long time since anyone came out alive from there. Of course, Qin Haodong was not afraid of the so-called devil. He said, It doesn't matter. You can send us to the periphery of the 13th district. We will find a way to get there by ourselves. Are you guys crazy? Why did he have to go to that damn place? Let me tell you, you absolutely cannot go to that place. The driver still wanted to dissuade him, but Qin Haodong took out a few bills and slapped them in front of him, saying, We know what we're doing. Take us there and these bills are yours. Alright then, good luck. Seeing that he couldn't stop them, the driver looked at them with pity and started the car again. The taxi left the airport and drove quickly along the highway in the direction of Area 13. The driver was very talkative. He chatted with the two along the way, introducing various legends related to Area 13 and the Devil's Forest, trying to persuade them to change their minds. Qin Haodong examined the warm-hearted driver several times and did not find any problems with him. But for some reason, there was a kind of uneasiness slowly growing in his heart, and this feeling was getting stronger and stronger. After a while, his scalp was numb, and the powerful spirit made him feel extremely uneasy. He quickly shouted to Hu Shaoxian, It's dangerous, get out of the car. With that, he kicked the door open and jumped out. Although Hu Shaoxian did not know why, she also kicked the door on the other side out of complete trust in Qin Haodong and jumped out. Oh my God, my car. The black driver was going crazy. They had been chatting well. Why did they suddenly kick the door of his car? What were they doing? Moreover, the speed of the car was extremely fast. How could he survive if he jumped out at this speed? Before he could react, there was a loud bang and a cloud of black smoke rose from the road. The Buick taxi was like a weightless leaf in front of the huge wave of air. It was thrown high and then turned into countless pieces. The poor black driver was buried with the taxi before he could figure out what was going on. Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian looked at the scene of the explosion together with a serious expression. Is it the driver's problem? Hu Shaoxian asked. No, the driver is fine. He didn't know there was a bomb in front of him. Qin Haodong said, I guess we were targeted as soon as we got off the plane, and then a bomb was installed on this road. Although they had guessed that this trip to M country would not be peaceful, they did not expect Davis to come so quickly, making the poor driver a scapegoat. What should we do now? Hu Shaoxian asked. Find another car, of course, Qin Haodong said as he looked around. Qin Haodong looked around, but this was not Wuxia. The population density was not large, and there were very few vehicles coming and going. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, only 2 cars passed by, and they all retreated after seeing the scene of the explosion. Hu Shaoxian said, It seems that we have to walk over. As soon as she finished speaking, a siren sounded. 2 police cars sped over from a distance. It seemed that someone had called the police. The 2 police cars stopped not far from them. 4 policemen jumped out of the cars, pulled out their guns and shouted, Don't move. Raise your hands. Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian both raised their hands cooperatively. The two police cars stopped not far from them. A bearded policeman came forward and asked, "Don't move. Raise your hands." The two of them were very cooperative. A bearded policeman stepped forward and asked, "What's going on here?" Qin Haodong said, "We are tourists from Wuxia. We took a taxi but somehow it exploded." The bearded policeman looked at the scene doubtfully. In addition to the fragments of the taxi, there was some blurred flesh left by the black driver. "Why did the taxi explode like that but you are fine?" Because we jumped out of the car in advance," Qin Haodong said helplessly. He didn't expect the country police to come so quickly. If they had known this, they would have left earlier. This kind of thing was really difficult to explain. The bearded policeman said warily, "Why did you jump out of the car? Because you knew there was a bomb in front of you? How did you know? Are you accomplices of the person who set off the bomb? Did you murder the taxi driver together?" Qin Haodong said, "Of course not. We just arrived in country. How could we have accomplices? Besides, we don't know this driver. How could we murder him?" "No, you are too suspicious. You must go back with us for investigation." The bearded policeman waved his hand, and another policeman immediately took out handcuffs and came to them. Hu Shaoxian gave Qin Haodong an inquiring look, but Qin Haodong shook his head. They came to find Davis to save people. If they had a head-on conflict with the police as soon as they arrived in country, it would be difficult to deal with later. Now they could only take one step at a time and act according to the circumstances. The two people were taken into the police car, bypassed the scene of the explosion and drove forward. Half an hour later, Qin Haodong felt something was wrong. They should have arrived in the city by now, but the direction they were going was getting more and more desolate. It seemed that they were getting farther and farther away from the city. "Officer, where are we going?" Qin Haodong asked. "Don't worry, we'll be there soon," the bearded policeman said as he drove the police car off the road and went straight to the foot of a mountain. He parked the car in front of a small forest. "Get out of the car. We're here," the bearded policeman said as he opened the door and got out of the police car first. Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian got out of the car and were surprised to find 20 or 30 gunmen in black standing in front of the small forest. These people were holding all kinds of guns in their hands. Some were long, some were short, and some were of different shapes. The muzzles were pointed at them as if they were holding a gun fair. He and Hu Shaoxian looked at each other. Both of them understood that these policemen were also fake. It was very likely that they were the people who had planted the bomb in advance. They were all killers sent by Davis. However, Qin Haodong did not panic. He glanced at the bearded policeman and said, "Officer, why did you bring us here? Boy, you're really an idiot. Can't you see that we're not policemen at all?" The bearded policeman laughed and tore off his police uniform, revealing his strong muscles. He said, "We're all Mr. Davis's men. The bomb just now was set by us. I didn't expect you to be so lucky that you didn't die." "Where's Davis? Why didn't he come? Did he kidnap my daughter?" The bearded man glanced at Qin Haodong and said, "If you want to see our boss, hand over your formula first. Otherwise, I'll show you the advanced weapons of our country." As he spoke, he raised his hand and pointed to the weapons in the hands of the gunmen. "See, these guns are enough to turn you into a sieve." After that, he turned to look at Hu Shaoxian and said with a lewd smile, "Little girl, don't be afraid. We won't kill you. Later, we'll let you have a taste of the country's men. They're definitely much better than this toy boy." Hu Shaoxian smiled charmingly and said, "Really? Don't be so good-looking but useless. You'll disappoint me then." The bearded man had never seen such a beautiful woman. His eyes flashed and he wanted to press Hu Shaoxian down immediately. He fell to the ground. He said to Qin Haodong, "Did you hear that? I don't have time to waste with you. Hand over the formula quickly. Didn't Davis tell you that I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner? Today I'll let you Westerners see the magic of Chinese medicine." Qin Haodong shook his hands and the handcuffs fell to the ground. Then he moved his wrists, raised his hand and snapped his fingers. He said to the gunmen, "Get down, all of you." The bearded man was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Qin Haodong to get rid of the handcuffs so easily. Just as he was about to order them to shoot, he found that his men fell to the ground and even threw their guns aside. Hu Shaoxian sneered and said, "See? You guys are really good-looking but useless." "What's going on?" The bearded man was shocked. He raised his hand to touch the pistol on his waist. Suddenly he felt dizzy and then fell to the ground with a plop. Qin Haodong used the ecstasy pill to knock these people out. He reached out to grab the bearded man's pistol and raised his hand to point at an aircraft hovering in the sky. Chapter 350. With his spirit locked on, Qin Haodong's bullets didn't miss. He shot the aircraft's propellers twice and it fell to the ground. He walked over, smiled at the camera on the drone, and then raised his foot to step on it. In the laboratory of the underground base, Davis and Garnett were watching the live broadcast on the big screen. Garnett said angrily, "Damn it, we put so many explosives but we didn't kill this hateful guy. Is he a devil?" Davis said with a cigar in his mouth, "I told you that this Wuxia guy would not be easy to deal with." Garnett said, "Fortunately, I still have a backup plan. Now that he is facing so many gunmen, I want to see what he can do. Unless he is God, there is absolutely no way he can escape." He was very confident in the gunmen he had sent. These people had not only undergone strict training, but they were also very good at shooting. They also had excellent weapons. No matter how good Qin Haodong was, he would not be able to compete with them. As soon as he finished speaking, the gunmen fell to the ground one after another. Garnett exclaimed, "God, what the hell happened? How could this be?" Then Qin Haodong's handsome face appeared on the big screen. Then a huge foot fell and the big screen was covered by snowflakes. "Damn it, I must kill him. I must kill him." Garnett roared angrily. Davis took a puff of his cigarette and said calmly, "Old man, why are you so anxious? His daughter is in our hands now. You didn't use the ready-made hostage. You just had to do these laborious and unrewarding things. Now you are at a disadvantage, aren't you?" Garnett took a deep breath, calmed down and said, "Then what do you think we should do?" Davis said, "It's very simple. Qin Haodong should be the anxious person now. Let him worry outside. Our base is very secretive. It is impossible for outsiders to find this place without a guide. Wait for him to be like a headless fly for 2 or 3 days. When he has completely lost his mind, we will find a chance to kill him." "Well, I'll listen to you this time," Garnett said. After crushing the aerial camera, Qin Haodong thought of something and put all the weapons and ammunition of these people into his storage ring. The more things they had, the better. The divine mercenaries could use them in the future. After doing all this, he took out an antidote and stuffed it into the bearded man's mouth before slapping him awake. Seeing Qin Haodong, the bearded man subconsciously touched the back again, only to find that it was a desert. The eagle had disappeared. He pulled out a dagger from his leg and rushed toward Qin Haodong. Hu Shaoxian lifted her leg and kicked hard on the bearded man's stomach with her 10-centimeter-long high heel. He was kicked 4 or 5 meters away and curled up on the ground like a prawn. When he looked at Hu Shaoxian again, his eyes were full of lust. Filth had completely disappeared and was replaced with a face full of fear. He did not understand how such a petite woman could have such great strength. Could this be the legendary Chinese kung fu? "A coward like you dares to have designs on me?" Hu Shaoxian looked disdainful. She stepped in front of the bearded man, lifted her right leg and stepped on his lower abdomen with her toes. The high heels were just between his legs. "Between. Tell me where Davis is or I'll cripple you right now." "No. Please don't." Seeing that his treasure was threatened, the bearded man was so scared that his face turned pale and he trembled all over. He hurriedly cried, "Mercy, please let me go. Davis asked me to do this." Hu Shaoxian asked, "Tell me, where is Davis now?" The bearded man said, "I really don't know. I'm just in the 13th zone. I have some gunmen under my command. Davis just called me and asked me to kill you, but I really don't know where he is." "You don't want to tell me? It seems that you want to enter the palace to serve the emperor," Hu Shaoxian said as she exerted force on her feet. The bearded man suddenly felt a sharp pain coming from his lower abdomen. He suddenly screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Looking at the high heel, Qin Haodong clamped his legs for no reason. It seemed that the bearded man's only function was to pee in the future. "Please let me go. I'll tell you now." The bearded man desperately begged for mercy. "You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." Hu Shaoxian lifted her toes and said, "Tell me, where is he?" The bearded man felt better, but his lower abdomen still hurt. He didn't know if he could still use it in the future. "He's hiding in the 13th zone, waiting for my news." Qin Haodong pulled the bearded man up, stared into his eyes and asked, "Tell me the truth, where is Davis?" This time he used mind manipulating. The bearded man's eyes flashed with confusion. He said, "I really don't know. Although I often cooperate with Davis, I never know where he is." Qin Haodong asked, "Then why do you say he's in the 13th zone?" "I want to lead you there and then let my men kill you, especially this woman. I must let my men torture her to death." Under the mind manipulating, the bearded man did not hide anything. His face was ferocious as he spoke, and the hatred in his heart completely burst out. "Go to hell. Seeing that the guy still wanted to retaliate against her, Hu Shaoxian kicked him in the chest. Crack, crack. In the sound of cracking bones, a large part of the bearded man's chest collapsed. Then he spat out mouthfuls of blood. It seemed that he would not survive. After dealing with the bearded man, Hu Shaoxian asked, "Do you want to wake up 2 more?" "No, these people are all the bearded man's men. Since the bearded man doesn't know where Davis is, it's useless to ask them." Then Qin Haodong took out the 1,000 blades. He gently pricked the tip of the knife on his left index finger. A crystal-clear drop of blood flowed out, but it did not fall. Instead, it slowly floated into the air. He made another incantation. The blood in the air shone with a red light, and then Tang Tang's face appeared in the red light. Hu Shaoxian asked in surprise, "What kind of magic is this?" Qin Haodong raised his hand and the red light disappeared. Then he said, "Blood manipulation. I use blood as a guide to find the person I'm looking for. As long as the distance is no more than 100 miles, I can know where Tang Tang is." "That's a good idea. Can you give it to me?" "Let's talk about it when you have a daughter." While talking, the 2 of them got into the bearded man's police car again. This time the driver was Qin Haodong. The car drove in the direction of the blood manipulation. Soon they found that the location of the blood manipulation was in the Devil Forest. They were not too far from the Devil Forest. They reached the edge of the forest in half an hour. It was almost evening. In order not to be discovered, Qin Haodong stopped the car far away. The 2 of them walked into the forest together. After entering the forest, they found that there were strict sentries, and even snipers were placed on several high points. No wonder the taxi driver said that no one would be able to come out alive. Surrounded by such dense firepower, ordinary people would never be able to come out alive once they entered. Hu Shaoxian said, "Davis is so afraid of death? Did he strengthen the defense because he knew you were coming?" "It doesn't seem like it. Davis has Tang Tang in his hands, so he wouldn't bother to set up so many sentries. There must be an unknown secret here," Qin Haodong said. "Anyway, let's go in first." Although the security here was strict, it worked for ordinary people. It didn't work for Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian. Soon the 2 of them quietly sneaked into the Devil Forest. After entering, they found that the closer they got to the periphery of the forest, the tighter the security was. On the contrary, the inside was relaxed. Maybe the people inside thought that no one could break through the defense outside. In the middle of the forest was an open space with an area of several square kilometers. It was unknown whether it was man-made or natural. The whole open space was covered with green grass without any trees. The 2 of them found a hidden place to hide. Hu Shaoxian asked, "Is it the wrong place? It doesn't look like Davis's residence, and there is no sign of Tang Tang." "Yes." Qin Haodong pointed to the ground. "I can feel that Tang Tang is down here. There are so many guards outside. Of course they won't guard an open space. There must be a secret down there." "Oh?" Hu Shaoxian said, "But it's difficult. We can't even find the entrance. How can we get in?" "Don't worry. The people underground will come out sooner or later. At least someone will come out to replace them." Qin Haodong said, "Before that, we can do something first." After that, he stretched out his right hand and a small triangular flag appeared in his hand. Choosing a position, he shot the flag out. After the flag was inserted into the ground, it quickly disappeared as if nothing had happened. "What is this? Are you going to set up a formation?" Hu Shaoxian had recognized that the small flag shot by Qin Haodong was the formation flag brought back from the Shenangjia underground palace. "Yes." Qin Haodong nodded. "Since we are here this time, we must completely solve the problem of Wilson Company. Otherwise these people will come to us like flies in the future. It will be very annoying." Hu Shaoxian asked, "What formation are you going to set up?" Qin Haodong said, "Anyway, we have plenty of time. I will set up a few more. First of all, we need to set up a trap formation to prevent the people inside from running out. In addition, we need to set up an illusion formation and the trigram fire formation of 5 elements. Maybe they will be useful." Hu Shaoxian nodded. If they wanted to keep all the people inside here, the trap formation was indeed the best way. As they talked, they walked around the open space. Qin Haodong kept throwing out formation flags. 2 hours later, all the 3 formations were set up, but they had not been activated for the time being. Nothing unusual could be seen from the outside. They were about to sit down and have a rest. At this moment, the turf in the center of the open space in the middle of the forest suddenly began to move slowly to both sides, revealing a huge underground passage. Hu Shaoxian said, "Their entrance is here. Shall we go in?" Qin Haodong said, "If we go in now, we will definitely be discovered by them. Let's find a chance to sneak in later and see what they are going to do first. Soon, a group of gunmen came out of the underground passage. These people were dressed in black, wearing hoods and carrying various weapons and guns. Qin Haodong said, "It seems that it's time to change shifts." Sure enough, these people came out to replace the guards outside. After the shift was completed, the gunmen in black re-entered the underground passage and the passage was closed again. Hu Shaoxian said, "That's easy. We can catch 2 gunmen in black and change their clothes. Then we can enter the underground passage together." Qin Haodong glanced at the 2 towering peaks on her chest and said, "I can sneak in, but I don't think you can. Everyone can see that you are a woman. It's not a big deal. I can deal with it. I often encountered this situation when I was doing tasks before." After Hu Shaoxian finished speaking, she did not avoid Qin Haodong at all and directly took off her coat. Chapter 351. Without the restraint of the coat, the 2 quite large peaks looked more towering. Qin Haodong couldn't help but swallow his saliva when he saw her white jade-like skin and bottomless ravines. Hu Shaoxian took out a chest wrapper from the storage ring and wrapped the 2 peaks tightly. Although they were still quite large, they would not be conspicuous if she wore a loose coat. "How about it? Is it okay now?" Qin Haodong licked his lips and said, "Well, aren't you afraid that you won't be able to recover in the future?" Hu Shaoxian glanced at him charmingly and said with a sneer, "What's wrong with that? Even if it's small, you're the one who suffers." Qin Haodong was speechless. Why was he the one who suffered? What kind of logic was this? The 2 of them found a hidden place to rest for a while and eat something. Then they began to pay attention to these men in black. Finally, they chose 2 men who were about the same size as them as their targets. The 2 men were wearing hoods so they couldn't see their faces at all. There were numbers 25 and 26 written on their lapels and cuffs, respectively. It seemed that they were used to distinguish them. Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian were not in a hurry. They stood behind the 2 gunmen and memorized their voices and habits. When they felt that it was enough, they knocked the 2 men out and changed their clothes. In order to prevent the unconscious gunmen from being discovered, Qin Haodong first sealed their acupoints, then chose 2 leafy trees from the side, tied the 2 men to the top of the trees, and left them to fend for themselves. After doing all this, they took over the original positions of the 2 gunmen and waited for the next shift. Unexpectedly, they waited for an entire night. It wasn't until the sun rose in the east the next morning that another team of gunmen came out from the underground tunnel. Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian exchanged positions with the gunmen who took over and followed the team of gunmen to the underground passage. In order to leave later, they deliberately slowed down their pace and stood at the end of the team. But they didn't go far before they heard the leader next to them shouting, "Number 25, number 26, why don't you 2 go back to your positions? Have you forgotten our discipline?" "I'll be right back." Qin Haodong imitated the gunman's accent and said. The 2 of them obediently returned to the middle of the group. However, it was impossible for them to leave midway. However, he had no choice but to take it 1 step at a time. They followed the team into the underground tunnel, and the door slowly closed. As the 2 of them walked in, they secretly observed their surroundings. The construction of this place was extremely modern. The environment was clean and tidy, and it was very spacious. The headlights above their heads lit up the place and it didn't seem dark at all. If they hadn't walked in from the outside, they wouldn't have been able to tell that they were in the underground world. The area of this underground base was very large. After entering, the leader directly led them to the lounge on the right. After entering the door, the gunmen found the corresponding positions for their numbers and began to put down their weapons, remove their hoods and take off their clothes. This time the 2 of them were a little dumbfounded. If they were in a separate room they might be able to get away with it. However, they were in full view of everyone here. As soon as they took off their masks they would immediately be exposed. The leader next to them shouted, "Number 25, number 26, what are you waiting for? Why aren't you changing? Hurry up and change your clothes, take a shower, and then go to the restaurant to eat." Hearing that they were going to take a shower, Hu Shaoxian was a little dumbfounded. She was a woman. How could she take a shower in front of a group of big men? At this time, some gunmen next to her had begun to take off their pants. She couldn't watch a group of big men naked. She couldn't help but look at Qin Haodong for help. Qin Haodong also knew that it was impossible to sneak around again. Fortunately, they had entered the underground base. He took out another ecstasy pill and crushed it. Soon the gunman in the lounge fell to the ground. "Let's go." Qin Haodong took off the number on the chest of the gunman leader and walked out of the lounge with Hu Shaoxian. They followed the direction of the little fellow. Not far from the door they encountered another heavy metal door. Qin Haodong scanned the leader's number in the position of identity confirmation. With a beep, the door slowly opened to both sides. It seemed that the leader had a high authority. After entering the door, the two of them were shocked by the scene in front of them, and then an irrepressible anger rose. Directly in front of them was a huge bulletproof glass wall. Behind the glass wall were densely packed glass containers. Each container was filled with red liquid. The liquid was either immersed in a complete human body, or cut off arms and legs and various human organs. It could be seen that this was the core area of the experiment. Many staff in scientific research uniforms walked around. They didn't care about Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian and continued with their work. The two of them calmed down and continued to walk forward. More strange things appeared. Monsters of different shapes began to appear in the glass containers. Some had a snake's body and a human's head, some had a leopard's head and a human's body, and some vaguely looked like humans. In fact, they were all put together by various monsters. Thinking of the various biochemical monsters they had encountered before, the two of them immediately understood that this was the base where the monsters were made. Those cyborgs were produced here. After all, Hu Shaoxian was a woman. Seeing the scene in front of her, she couldn't help but feel nauseous. She quickly ran her genuine qi to suppress the feeling of wanting to vomit. Then she whispered in Qin Haodong's ear, "Damn it, they actually used human beings for experiments. They will be punished by heaven." Although Qin Haodong didn't say anything, he was also extremely angry. He had already sentenced everyone in the base to death. Perhaps in the eyes of these researchers, what they were doing was just ordinary work, but this touched his bottom line. Even the disciples of the Devil Gate in the cultivation world were not so cruel. These experimental bodies that were being cut up had different skin colors. Some were from the East, some were from Africa, and some were from the West. Without exception, they were all living people, but they were used for experiments. At this moment he made up his mind. As long as he rescued the little fellow, he must uproot this base. In the hall in the center of the base, Davis and Garnett had just eaten the exquisite breakfast that the servants had brought. Davis picked up a white napkin and wiped his mouth. He said, "Old man Beardy is dead. Our experimental bodies will soon be in shortage. It seems that we need to find a new spokesperson." Garnett said, "That's easy. There are many violent people like him in District 13. They are willing to do anything as long as they are paid. What I'm worried about now is that Wuxia man. After killing Beardy, he disappeared. I don't know where he went." Davis frowned and said, "Qin Haodong is indeed difficult to deal with, but don't worry too much. After all, his daughter is in our hands. With this bargaining chip, he won't be able to cause any trouble." At this moment, a harsh alarm sounded in the base. Everyone immediately became nervous. This was the alarm of an enemy invasion. Garnett grabbed the walkie-talkie in front of him and asked, "Who sent the alarm? What's going on?" The watchman in the monitoring room said in a hurry, "Boss, we just found that all the gunmen in the lounge have fainted. Also, 2 people wearing gunmen's clothes have crossed the experimental area. They are about to reach you." "How could this be?" Garnett hurriedly asked someone to switch the big screen to the lounge. He saw the gunman lying on the ground. It was exactly the same scene as when the gunman had fainted in the past. Davis said, "It's Qin Haodong. He must have come in. No wonder we can't see him outside." Garnett cried, "How did he make so many people faint at once? Is he a magician?" "He's definitely not a magician," Davis said. "I guess he must have a biochemical weapon that can make people faint quickly. He can also hypnotize people easily, so we must be careful." As he spoke, he waved to the guard captain next to him. "Gather all the guards immediately. They must be fully armed. Put on gas masks and sunglasses. Don't be hypnotized by this guy." "Yes." The guard captain answered and ran to gather the team. Davis picked up a pair of big sunglasses and put them on his face. At the same time, he threw another pair of sunglasses to Garnett. "Put them on, old man. Our guests will be here soon." Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian passed through the experimental area and arrived at the center of the entire underground base. When they passed through another electronic door, they suddenly found 50 armed gunmen in front of them. These people were not only fully armed, but they were also wearing gas masks and big sunglasses. He couldn't help but smile. It seemed that these people were targeting him. "Old friend, welcome," Davis said as he stood up from the sofa and made a welcoming gesture with a smile. In contrast, Garnett's expression was much more serious. Qin Haodong said, "Davis, did you kidnap my daughter?" Davis said with a smile, "Qin, you're being too harsh. This is not a kidnapping. I just invited your daughter to M country as a guest. She's living happily here. Qin Haodong said, don't talk nonsense. Tell me your conditions. What do you want me to do to get my daughter back? Well, since you're so anxious, I'll get straight to the point. Davis said, immediately ask your people to stop the production of the blood revival elixir and give me your formula. As long as you do these two things, I can immediately return your lovely daughter to you. It's that simple. No problem, I can promise you that, Qin Haodong said. Before I came here, Tangmin Traditional Chinese Medicine Company had already stopped the production of the blood revival elixir and was producing the great liver protecting pill. This is completely in line with your requirements. As for the formula, I'll write it for you now. As he spoke, Qin Haodong strode forward, grabbed a pen and paper from a table and wrote down a formula. After he finished writing, he flicked his finger. The originally light piece of paper fell directly on the tea table in front of Davis, as if it was not affected by any air resistance. Mr. Davis, is it time to return my daughter to me? At this time, Garnett said, no, the two formulas you gave us before were fake. No one knows whether it's real or fake this time. We have to verify it before we can believe you. Qin Haodong glanced at him and asked, who are you? Davis took the formula and said with a smile, let me formally introduce you. This is my partner, Mr. Garnett. Qin Haodong said, bosses, I'm in your territory now and there are so many guns pointing at me. Are you afraid that I'll run away? Davis thought for a moment and said, well, we'll also show our sincerity and return the lovely little girl to you first. However, you must wait until we get the results of the experiment before you leave. Then, he waved his hand behind him, and a slim woman came out with the little fellow in her arms. Chapter 352. The woman's figure was very similar to Lin Momo's, but her appearance was much worse. It seemed that she was the one who had tricked Tang Tang by pretending to be Lin Momo. Papa, I miss you so much. After seeing Qin Haodong, the little fellow immediately cried out excitedly. The woman turned her head to look at Davis. Davis waved his hand and the woman put the little fellow on the ground. Tang Tang immediately ran to Qin Haodong happily and plunged into his arms. Papa, I miss you. I want to kiss you. The little fellow said as she reached out to hug Qin Haodong's neck and kissed his face with her chubby little mouth. Looking at the warm scene in front of her, Hu Shaoxian felt an inexplicable envy in her heart. When could she have such a lovely daughter? But at this moment she was surprised to find that the little fellow opened her mouth and spat out a javelin-like tongue, directly stabbing Qin Haodong's left eye. At the same time, a sharp knife appeared in her palm and slashed at Qin Haodong's throat. It was a fake Tang Tang. Seeing the little fellow's strange behavior, Hu Shaoxian immediately thought of Terminator No. 1 that she had encountered not long ago. Their behavior was too similar. Haodong, be careful. Hu Shaoxian hurriedly shouted to remind him. Qin Haodong had been prepared. From the moment the woman appeared with the little fellow, he was sure that the one in front of him was a fake, because the direction of the blood-drawing skill was not the little girl in front of him. Therefore he had been in a state of high alert from beginning to end. At this time, facing the attack of the fake Tang Tang, he suddenly swung his right fist and punched the guy in the chest. Before the knife in the fake Tang Tang's hand touched Qin Haodong's skin, she let out a scream. Her whole body was thrown out more than 10 meters like a ball. With a bang, she hit the wall next to her and then fell to the ground and stopped moving. Then, a computer not far away exploded with a bang, emitting a cloud of black smoke. It turned out that Qin Haodong was angry that the other party was pretending to be his daughter. He used all his strength to directly shatter the chip in the fake's heart. Seeing that the little girl had been completely crippled, Garnett shouted angrily, B****, you destroyed my Terminator 4. Davis didn't panic at all. He clapped his hands and looked at Qin Haodong saying, Qin, I'm really curious. What kind of eyes do you have? You can even see through Terminator No. 4, which was cloned from your daughter's genes. How did you do it? I can only say that you are too stupid. Qin Haodong glared at Davis and said, I've given you the formula, but you're fooling me with a fake one. Is this your sincerity? Davis said, Huasha man, to be honest, I really appreciate you. Join us and I'll give you everything you want, including money, women, power, whatever you want. Qin Haodong said, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in being a puppet. Please give my daughter back to me. Looks like it's impossible for us to cooperate. Davis shook his head with a look of pity. He raised his hand and said to the gunners, send him on his way. Seeing that the gunners had ordered to open fire, Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian moved and suddenly rushed toward Davis and Garnett. But it was too late. The gunners immediately pulled the trigger after receiving the order. Fire snakes spat out and instantly turned the two people in the field into sieves. Qin Haodong struggled a few times, then lay on the ground and stopped moving. Are they really dead? How could it be so simple? Looking at the two people on the ground, Davis couldn't believe his eyes. Garnett cried excitedly, "What's there to doubt? With so many bullets, even an immortal would have been blown up." He came to Qin Haodong's side and kicked him hard. He laughed wildly and said, "Wuxia man, although you are very powerful in the end, you still died in our hands. If you want to fight against our organization in your next life." Looking at everything in front of him, Davis also felt that it was real. He took a puff of the cigar in his hand and said, "This ending is a bit boring. I haven't used my hostage yet." As he spoke, he clapped the red button on the table. The wall next to him slowly opened like two doors, revealing a glass house about 20 square meters in size. The interior of the house was extremely exquisite, like a palace in a fairy tale world. At this time, the little fellow was sitting on a cartoon sofa, eating potato chips and watching cartoons across from her. Since the hostage is useless, then destroy her and use her as experimental material. The daughter of that Wuxia man must be the best experimental material. As he spoke, a ferocious look flashed across Davis's fat face. After receiving his order, the woman next to him walked to the glass house and raised her hand to press a button with a skull logo. This button was the poison gas switch. As long as it was pressed, the glass house would be instantly engulfed by the poison gas, and the little fellow would become a lifeless experimental material. Just as her hand was about to touch the button, suddenly a cold light flashed. The woman screamed and one of her arms fell to the ground. Then another light flashed across the woman's throat. The woman covered her neck with her remaining hand and looked around, but she saw nothing. She fell to the ground with a look of unwillingness on her face. Davis was shocked. At this moment there was a crazy sound of gunfire. A dense barrage of bullets was fired at the surrounding gunmen. For a moment there was a lot of screaming. One gunman after another fell to the ground. These gunmen were horrified to find that they could only face the bullets, but they could not see where the bullets came from. They did not find the shooter until they died. Before they could figure out what was going on, all 50 gunmen in the hall were killed and fell to the ground in disorder. "Bastard, what's going on? Who did it? Who did it?" Garnett roared crazily. He did not understand how it had suddenly become like this. "I did it. What's wrong? If you have a problem, go to God." With a cold voice, Qin Haodong's figure slowly appeared beside Garnett, holding the 1,000 blades in his hand that shone with a cold light. You. Seeing Qin Haodong reappear in front of him, Garnett's face was full of horror. He turned his head to the side, only to see that Qin Haodong and Hu Xiaoxian's bodies had disappeared. Garnett was about to say something when a cold light flashed. His head flew up and he could no longer make a sound. Everything was over. In the blink of an eye, only Davis was left in the base. In front of him stood Qin Haodong, who was holding the 1,000 blades, and Hu Xiaoxian, who was holding an M16. It turned out that the scene of them dying under the gun was an illusion. After Qin Haodong disabled the fake Tang Tang, he immediately activated the illusion formation that had been set up. The whole base was under his control. He could hide himself if he wanted and let Davis see what he wanted. Looking at the two men with murderous faces, Davis said in a panic, "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. If you kill me, your daughter won't be able to get out." At this time, the little fellow in the glass house saw Qin Haodong and immediately cried out happily, "Papa, you've come to pick me up." "Tang Tang, wait a minute. Papa will get you out right away." Qin Haodong turned his head and shouted at Davis, "Open the door and let my daughter out." Seeing that he cared so much about Tang Tang, Davis's heart seemed to be a lot more at ease. He had a hostage in hand, so Qin Haodong would not dare to kill him anyway. "No, if I let her go now, you will definitely kill me. You must ensure my safety first and then I can let her out." Qin Haodong said with a murderous look, "Damn fatty, are you talking to me about conditions?" Davis hurriedly said, "I'm telling you, don't mess around. This house is specially made. Although it's made of glass, it's 10 times harder than stainless steel. No one can open it without my password. You won't be able to see your daughter in this life. You can only watch her die in there. You think too much." Qin Haodong kicked Davis in the lower abdomen and directly kicked him out. He slammed into the wall behind him and then lay on the ground vomiting blood. At this time, Hu Xiaoxian pulled the trigger in her hand. The M16 shot wildly at the corner of the glass house. Sparks flew and bullets flew. Davis had just gotten up from the ground when a stray bullet hit his thigh. He screamed again and fell to the ground. He lay on the ground, covering his thigh with one hand and his head with the other. He cried, "Don't shoot. Don't shoot anymore. Guns are useless. Even rockets can't penetrate this kind of high-strength fiberglass." Hu Shaoxian stopped and approached the glass house to take a look. She saw that there was not even a spot on the fiberglass in front of her, which showed how hard it was. She took out the purple flash sword and stabbed it with her internal force. After a crisp sound, the purple flash sword bounced off in an arc, leaving only a small white spot on the fiberglass. Qin Haodong came over and tried with the 1,000 blades in his hand. It still couldn't hurt the high-strength fiberglass in front of him. Davis got up from the ground again, limped over and said, "How about it? Do you know the power of high-tech? Let me go. If I don't enter the password, the oxygen supply will be cut off in an hour. Your daughter will soon suffocate to death." Qin Haodong looked at the proud Davis with a sneer. He knew that the old man wanted to threaten him, but he would kill Davis and destroy the base today anyway. He would not be threatened by him. He turned to the little fellow and said, "Tang Tang, use your phoenix fire." "Papa, can I use the fire?" Hearing that her father asked her to use the phoenix fire, the little fellow's eyes were filled with uncontrollable excitement. Qin Haodong said, "Of course. As long as someone threatens your life, you can use it at any time." Davis didn't understand what the phoenix fire was. He cried, "I tell you, this is a special high-strength fiberglass steel. It's super heat resistant. Ordinary flames are useless." He was trying to persuade Qin Haodong when he saw a red light flashing in the little fellow's eyes. Then she opened her mouth and spat out a huge flame, like a huge firebird pouncing on the glass wall in front of her. "It's impossible." Davis opened his mouth wide in surprise, even forgetting the pain in his leg. But at this time, a scene that surprised him even more happened. The originally indestructible glass wall was like snow meeting boiling water in front of this flame. It melted instantly, and in the blink of an eye, a hole about 2 meters in diameter was burned by the phoenix fire. Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian were not surprised by all this. Even the Millennium Ice Iron could be melted. A small fiberglass was nothing. "Papa. Papa. Tang Tang is here. Tang Tang, I miss you so much." The little fellow jumped out of the glass house and threw herself into Qin Haodong's arms. She held his neck with her 2 chubby little hands and kept acting like a spoiled child. "My God, what kind of monster is this?" Davis's face was full of fear after the shock. Now he had lost his last support. Chapter 353. Qin Haodong held the little fellow in his arms for a while. Just as he was about to turn around and settle the score with Davis, a great sense of crisis suddenly rose from the bottom of his heart. Thinking of the self-explosion of the Terminator, he understood what the problem was. He quickly pulled Hu Shaoxian with one hand and the little fellow with the other, and rushed into the glass house just now. Davis seemed to have realized the problem as well. He limped towards the glass house. Perhaps halfway there, the dead gunmen on the ground activated their self-destruct sequence. A series of explosions rang out, and flesh and blood filled the entire room along with the huge explosive force. Davis was killed first and then his body also exploded. For a moment, the hall was filled with the unpleasant smell of blood and the smoke of the explosion. At this time the glass house played its role to the fullest. As expected of something that could not even be blown up by rockets, its defenses remained intact despite the layers of explosions. The 3 of them were not affected by it at all, but the air quality became a little worse. About 5 minutes later the explosion was completely over. The bodies of the 50 gunmen, Davis and Garnett, had completely disappeared. They were all blown to pieces, leaving nothing behind. Seeing the scene of flesh and blood flying, Hu Shaoxian said with some fear, "I don't know who invented this organization. It's really evil. They are so cruel to their own people." Qin Haodong sighed and said, "It's a pity that we didn't find any clues from Davis. Otherwise we should have uprooted this organization. This evil organization should not exist in this world." "Wuxia man, you are too arrogant." Just when Qin Haodong and Hu Shaoxian thought it was all over, a voice suddenly sounded in the hall. Then the surrounding buildings began to rotate strangely. With a loud cracking sound, the original scenery completely disappeared. The most terrible thing was that even the door they came in through was gone. The surrounding became dark walls and the whole room became an airtight box. Then, the wall opposite them lit up, and a huge electronic screen appeared on the wall, and on the screen was Davis's greasy face. "Qin Haodong, I have to say that you are better than I thought. You killed so many of my men and my double here. You're really good." Qin Haodong was slightly shocked. He didn't expect that the Davis who had just died was just a fake, and the real Davis was not here. Davis seemed to have guessed what he was thinking. He laughed and said, "How is it? Isn't it a pleasant surprise? Let me tell you, this base was built by me. I am a god here. No one can defeat me and neither can you." After calming down, Qin Haodong said, "I heard from Wang Deshang that you all belong to an organization. I'm curious about what kind of organization it is." Davis said, "The strength of our organization is beyond your imagination. Although you are very strong and excellent, you are not worth mentioning in front of our organization. It's laughable that you wanted to uproot the organization just now. To borrow a Chinese phrase, this is called a fool's dream." Qin Haodong didn't argue with him and said, "Tell me, how can you let us out? Come out. You still want to come out?" Davis laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke. After laughing enough, he said, "I designed this hall for the enemy, but I didn't expect that the first one to rush here would be a Wuxia person. Let me tell you, once you enter here you won't be able to get out alive. Although the situation has changed a little, and the glass house has become your refuge, it doesn't matter. Now there is no air circulation here and soon you will suffocate painfully here." Hearing this, Qin Haodong patted Hu Shaoxian. Hu Shaoxian immediately understood and turned to the turtle breathing method to minimize the consumption of oxygen. Qin Haodong walked out of the glass house, raised his hand and patted the wall next to him, making a muffled sound. He felt that it was made of pure steel, which was harder than a copper wall and thick. Davis laughed and said, "Don't even think about getting out. This is a wall made of pure steel. It is 5 meters thick and even missiles can't break it. I advise you to sit down and waste less oxygen so you can live a few more minutes." Qin Haodong looked back and smiled. "Do you think you will win?" Davis laughed and said, "Don't you think so? Are you very angry now? You really want to hit me, but can you get out?" Qin Haodong said, "It seems that you know too little about the East. I can't get out, but I can also deal with you." After that he made a gesture. A burst of spiritual qi surged, and the trap formation and the 5 elements trigram fire formation outside were all activated. Davis looked at Qin Haodong and did not feel anything strange. He asked in surprise, "What are you doing?" Qin Haodong smiled and said, "You'll know soon." Sure enough, as soon as he finished speaking, there was a harsh alarm from Davis, and then someone ran over and shouted, "Boss, it's not good. There's a fire outside." Davis cried, "That's impossible. We are all built with top fireproof materials. How could there be a fire?" "But boss, there's really a fire. Our fire facilities don't work at all. The fire is getting bigger and bigger. Let's get out quickly or it will be too late." Davis turned around and snarled at Qin Haodong with a ferocious face, "Did you do this?" Qin Haodong spread out his hands and said with a smile, "It's a small gift. I hope you like it. Bastard, if you dare to destroy my painstaking efforts, I will tear you into pieces and burn your bones to ashes." Just as Davis was roaring, the big screen suddenly went dark. Some facilities must have been burned. Hu Shaoxian said, "Haodong, if you really burn the outside, what should we do?" "I just want to create some chaos for them, or we won't have a chance to get out." Qin Haodong said and patted the little fellow's face, "We have Tang Tang, the Suzaku sacred body. Are we afraid that we can't get out?" The little fellow said cheerfully, "Yes. Yes. I can burn it and we can get out." Hu Shaoxian thought about it and agreed. When they were in the underground palace, the little fellow's phoenix fire could even melt the Millennium Ice Iron, let alone these ordinary steel. In order to save time, Qin Haodong closed his eyes and felt the surrounding environment with his powerful spirit. Then he raised his hand and pointed to a wall and said, "The wall here is the thinnest. Tang Tang, start here." After that, he put the little fellow on the ground and took a few steps back with Hu Shaoxian. The little fellow took a deep breath and her eyes flashed red. Then she opened her mouth and spat out a huge flame. These seemingly indestructible steel melted immediately after encountering the phoenix fire, and soon a passage was burned in the wall. 5 minutes later, the 3 people climbed out of the cooled passage. At this time, they had left the underground experimental base and returned to the ground. In front of them, there was thick smoke and fire everywhere. It was just noon, the time of the day when the yang qi was the strongest. The burning yang qi raised the power of Qin Haodong's 5 elements trigram fire formation to the maximum. If it was just an ordinary fire, it would not burn the underground base. But this was the invisible 5 elements trigram fire formation, which was almost invincible and could melt anything. At this time, the fire was rising above and below the ground, and even the mechanism to open the underground passage was burned. All the people in the base were trapped underground, and there was no way to escape. These people usually regarded human life as nothing and experimented with living people. They never thought that one day they would be burned to death. Qin Haodong had no mercy for these people. He made another incantation to turn the 5 elements trigram fire formation to the maximum, and the fire was burning more and more. Because he was the controller, he was unimpeded in the fire formation, and the fire would not cause any hindrance to them. At this moment, the ground not far away slowly cracked, and then it was upgraded to a helipad, on which a helicopter was parked. A pilot took the lead in boarding the helicopter. After starting it, a huge airflow blew the fire away. Then Davis ran out with 7 or 8 bodyguards. At first he wanted to put out the fire. After all, this underground base was his nest, but later he found that all his efforts were in vain. The fire was burning too strangely. The more it burned, the more it burned. Things like fire extinguishers were useless. In the end, he had to give up fighting the fire. Standing in front of the helicopter, he looked back at the underground base that had become a sea of fire. His heart was constantly bleeding. This was the result of his years of hard work, and now it had been burned to the ground. He patted the safe in his hand. Fortunately, the main scientific and technological achievements of these years were here. With these things he could make a comeback. Qin Haodong, damn you, you burned my underground base. But I can make a comeback. You can only become barbecue. Davis cursed angrily to vent his anger. At this time he heard someone next to him say, "Old thing, are you cursing me?" Davis was scared out of his wits. He turned his head and saw Qin Haodong appear beside him like a ghost with the little fellow in his arms. Wu Shaoxian was standing next to him with a smile. You. How did you get out?" Davis couldn't imagine how Qin Haodong escaped. "How could that broken thing of yours trap me?" Qin Haodong looked at him playfully and said, "Aren't you the god here? Now the base is on fire. How can you run away alone as a god? That's not good. You'd better stay." "Kill him for me," Davis shouted, then turned around and ran to the helicopter. The bodyguards got the order and immediately rushed to Qin Haodong. But how could they be opponents of Hu Shaoxian and Qin Haodong? They were all put down to the ground a minute later, but the helicopter had already taken off. "Qin Haodong, you wait. I won't forgive you." In the loud roar of the helicopter, Davis roared at Qin Haodong. At this time he hated this Wuxia man who had ruined his decades of efforts. Hu Shaoxian reached out and the M16 appeared in her palm. She asked, "Do you want me to shoot him down?" Qin Haodong stopped her and said, "Don't worry, we want him alive. I still have something to ask him. But this guy is going to run away soon. If he runs out, it will be difficult to find him again." "Don't worry, he can't run away," Qin Haodong said confidently. "I set up a trap. Even a helicopter can't get out. Besides, I have an illusion to play with him." In midair, the pilot was skillfully operating the helicopter, but suddenly found that all the instruments were out of order. Only the descending one was still normal. Davis looked at the rising flames underground and shouted to the pilot, "What are you doing? Why don't you leave quickly?" "Boss, the helicopter is broken." While the pilot was talking, he suddenly found that several rockets had locked his plane. He was scared out of his wits and quickly landed the plane back to the ground. Chapter 354. Seeing Qin Haodong's smiling face reappear in front of him, Davis roared crazily, "Damn it, what are you doing? Hurry up and fly up." But at this time the pilot didn't care so much. Before the plane stopped, he jumped out of the pilot's seat and ran for his life. "Damn it, bastard, I'll kill you sooner or later." Davis cursed at the pilot's back. Because of the high technical content of the cockpit, the pilot was hired from outside at a high price. He was not a core member of their base, so his loyalty was not high. "Dear Mr. Davis, I didn't expect to meet you again so soon." Qin Haodong's handsome face appeared in front of Davis again, with a playful smile on his face. Somebody. Davis shouted a few times, but the whole base was busy running for their lives. No one heard his roar at all, or even if someone heard it, they didn't want to pay attention. Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, Davis licked his dry lips and said, "Qin Haodong, now is not the time for us to make trouble for each other. We should find a way to escape together, or we will all be burned here later." Qin Haodong said, "Mr. Davis, you think too much. Now only I can make trouble for you, and only you will be burned to death. I'm God here and I can control everything." As he spoke, he raised his hand and waved. The flames around him immediately weakened a lot, and the fire that had swept here disappeared in an instant. As the controller of the 5 elements trigram fire formation, he did have the power of a god here. Davis was stunned, and at the same time he also felt a burst of fear. What kind of existence was he provoking? Mr. Chin, listen to me. In fact, we don't need to fight to the death. Reconciliation is the best way. As long as you let me go today, I promise I won't make trouble for you in the future. Chin Haodong smiled and said, You kidnapped my daughter and just wanted to burn us together. Do you think there is any possibility of reconciliation between us? And I don't believe your words. I think only dead people are the most reliable. Although the handsome face in front of him was smiling brightly, Davis felt a deep killing intent. He quickly said, I can give you a lot of money. I've made a lot of money in Wilson Company over the years, more than you can imagine. I can give you all as long as you let me go. The smile on Chin Haodong's face disappeared. He didn't want to talk nonsense anymore, so he directly used mind manipulating. Tell me, which organization do you belong to? What's your name? What is your purpose? My organization is called. A trace of confusion flashed across Davis's face, and then his expression became one of extreme pain. Just as he was about to say the name of the organization, blood suddenly flowed out of his 7 orifices, and he fell to the ground with a horrified expression. At the same time, Chin Haodong felt a huge spiritual fluctuation and couldn't help but frown. Hu Shaoxian asked, What happened? Did he commit suicide by taking poison? Chin Haodong squatted down to feel Davis's pulse. He shook his head and said, This is not suicide. He was killed by someone else. Someone else? Hu Shaoxian immediately glanced around vigilantly. There's no need to look. The person who did it is not here. Chin Haodong said, This is a very unique method called the lock of divine thoughts. In layman's terms, someone locked Davis's mind with divine thoughts. As long as he touched something, he would be killed immediately. Is there such a method? Hu Shaoxian was originally a master of mental strength. After hearing Chin Haodong's words, she immediately said in surprise, How strong is the mental strength to do this? Chin Haodong said, It's true. To use the lock of divine thoughts, one must have extremely strong mental strength. Measured by the cultivation of warriors, one must at least reach the supreme power realm. That is to say, there are masters in this field in that organization. Hu Shaoxian said with a dignified expression, What kind of organization is this? Why haven't we heard any news before? It seems that this matter must be reported to the Shenyuan Pavilion. Chin Haodong also realized the power of this evil sect. At least the person who could use the lock of divine thoughts was not someone he could compete with at present. Hu Shaoxian said, Hurry up. Be careful that his body will explode later. There is no genetic bomb in his body, but the lock of divine thoughts has been placed in his body. It should be because the level is relatively high. Chin Haodong stood up as he spoke, but suddenly his expression froze. He saw a touch of cyan on Davis's wrist, which seemed to be the corner of a tattoo. He squatted down again and raised his hand to tear off Davis's sleeve. There was indeed a clear tattoo on Davis's wrist. It was normal for Westerners to have tattoos, but this tattoo looked a little special. It was a man kneeling on the ground, making a gesture of worship. Although his face could not be seen clearly, he could feel his devout worship, as if he was worshipping a supreme person. Have you ever seen this kind of tattoo? Chin Haodong said to Hu Shaoxian. Hu Shaoxian shook her head and said, No. Is there any special meaning? Chin Haodong said, I don't know at the moment, but I always feel that this should be a special mark of that organization. If you want to investigate in the future, you can take it as a direction. After that, he tore off all Davis's clothes, leaving only a pair of shorts, but found no other suspicious places. Hu Shaoxian took out her mobile phone and took a picture of the tattoo on Davis's wrist. She said, We should go or we will be in trouble when the police come. Chin Haodong nodded and the 3 of them walked out of the Devil Forest together. The 5 elements trigram fire formation was extremely good at controlling flames. It only burned the underground base in the middle of the open space, and did not hurt the surrounding forest. The gunmen who had been guarding around the forest saw the fire in the base and immediately went back to rescue. However, it was impossible for them to come out after they went back. They had all become funerary objects of the base. Chin Haodong started the car and the 3 of them quickly left. There was such a big noise here. Although it was far from the urban area, the police would definitely arrive later. Sure enough, they encountered countless police cars and fire trucks rushing to the suburbs along the way, but these headaches were left to the government of M country. It had nothing to do with them. Now that the little fellow had been rescued, there was no need for them to stay in M country anymore. They drove directly to the airport. Hu Shaoxian glanced at Qin Haodong and said with some resentment, "Why do I make such a big noise every time I'm with you? Then I have to go back and report it." Originally, she wanted to stay with Qin Haodong in Jiangnan City for a while, but whether it was the biochemical experimental base or the mysterious organization, she had to report it to the Shenyuan Pavilion in time, which meant that they would be separated soon. No wonder she was dissatisfied. Qin Haodong said with a little embarrassment, "It's not my fault. I didn't want this to happen." Hu Shaoxian said, "But bad things can also be turned into good things. This time, we destroyed an underground base and discovered the existence of the mysterious organization. I will go back and report it to the Shenyuan Pavilion. They will definitely give you great credit." Qin Haodong said, "It doesn't matter. I'm just a little doctor. It has nothing to do with me whether you give me credit or not." Hu Shaoxian said, "You are so outstanding. Do you really not want to consider joining our Shenyuan Pavilion? If you become a member of the Shenyuan Pavilion, you will have a lot of privileges and no longer be restricted in many aspects." Qin Haodong said with a smile, "What do you mean by many aspects? Can I marry many wives?" Hu Shaoxian rolled her eyes at him and said, "What are you thinking about? Of course not. If I can't even do this little thing, then why should I join it? I won't consider it." "You?" Hu Shaoxian was so angry that she couldn't speak. The Shenyuan Pavilion was the dream of many ambitious young people. Countless people fought to join it, but the guy in front of her refused for such a reason. Soon they returned to the capital airport of M country and took the last plane back to Wuxia. After arriving in Jiangnan City, Hu Shaoxian directly flew back to the capital. Qin Haodong walked out of the airport with the little fellow. At the exit of the airport, Lin Momo was waiting there with a longing face, waiting to meet the two most important people in her life. Although she was only wearing business attire today, standing at the exit still gave her a feeling of being a crane among chickens. Whether it was her delicate face without any blemishes, her cold and aloof goddess demeanor, or her curvaceous sexy figure, she could firmly capture the eyes of other male creatures. Because Saber and others were around, no one dared to talk to her. But after a long time, there were still many people who were eager to make a move. They felt that they might be able to win the favor of the goddess since they were so outstanding. Just as these people were about to come forward, the little fellow ran out of the exit and threw herself into Lin Momo's arms like a cheerful bird. "Mama, I'm back." These people couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. It turned out that she was already taken and her child was already so big. Alas, good cabbages are all given to. Just when these people were about to add a sour sentence, they saw Qin Haodong coming out of the exit. They couldn't help but swallow the second half of the sentence. Looking at this handsome face, they couldn't associate him with a pig. Qin Haodong, Lin Momo, and the little fellow together, this family of three was simply the representative of the most beautiful people in Wuxia, which made others have no intention to complain. "Well, I wish you happiness," many people secretly thought in their hearts. Qin Haodong didn't know these people's mixed feelings. He got in the car with Lin Momo, and the three of them rushed to Tangmen Company. After a brief introduction of the situation in M country, Qin Haodong said, "How is it going at home?" Lin Momo said, "Since you held that press conference, all of Wuxia has begun to support traditional Chinese medicine. Those who originally wanted to abolish traditional Chinese medicine have shut up. Now the development of traditional Chinese medicine is very good. And with that video, the cases related to traditional Chinese medicine have been quickly solved, and Xiao Xiao has also been released." Speaking of this, she sighed and said, "It's just that Xiao Xiao is in a bit of trouble. She's in a very bad mood now. She was very depressed after knowing that Wang Deshang was dead. Now she's just staying at home alone and doesn't see anyone." Qin Haodong said, "Xiao Xiao was hurt by Wang Deshang like this. Don't you hate him at all?" Lin Momo said, "Xiao Xiao is stubborn. Otherwise she wouldn't have waited for Wang Deshang for so many years. Although Wang Deshang has wronged her, he is the only man she has ever loved." Qin Haodong said, "Forget it, no one can help with this kind of thing. Let's go see her together when we have time." Lin Momo also knew that this was the only way, so she said, "During the days you were not at home, Director Pan came to see you several times. He just called me. He heard that you were coming back today, so he is waiting for you in our company now." Qin Haodong said in surprise, "Hasn't the matter of traditional Chinese medicine been solved? Why are you so anxious to see me?" Chapter 355. Lin Momo said, "Although the main problem has been solved, Director Pan still has a lot of things to do, such as the treatment costs and compensation for patients who have taken the treasure tablet for kidney. Although the ultimate responsibility for this matter lies with the Hall of Medical Fame, Wang Desheng is dead and Xiao Xiao is a victim. The authorities have to come forward to solve these problems. Qin Haodong nodded. There were indeed a lot of things to deal with. When he returned to Tangmen Company, Pan Gaofeng was already waiting in the reception room. When he saw Qin Haodong, he quickly said, "Dr. Qin, you're back. How are things going?" He only knew that Qin Haodong had gone to M country in a hurry, but he didn't know the details. "Everything's fine. It's all done." Qin Haodong didn't tell him much about the secrets of Wilson Company and the biochemical experimental base. He asked, "Director Pan, is there anything I can do for you?" Pan Gaofeng sighed and said, "Dr. Qin, I'm in big trouble now. I really need your help." Although the matter of the treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame has been investigated and it was all Wang Desheng's conspiracy, after all, so many patients were hospitalized because of the treasure tablet for kidney. I have to solve the problem of treatment and subsequent compensation. Qin Haodong asked, "How many patients have taken the treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame? How much will the subsequent compensation cost be?" "There are more than 3,000 patients in total. Jiangnan City accounts for about 2/3, and there are some in other cities and provinces. According to the compensation standard of 100,000 yuan per person, it will cost about 200 to 300 million yuan. After a pause, Pan Gaofeng said, "Thanks to your help. If it weren't for the great liver-protecting pill which can effectively treat liver damage, the compensation would be more." Qin Haodong said, "Although 300 million yuan is not a small number, the total assets of the Hall of Medical Fame are about 700 to 800 million yuan. After all, we can still afford it, right?" Pan Gaofeng said, "It's not as simple as it seems. I've asked someone to evaluate the assets of the Hall of Medical Fame. The official price is 750 million yuan. But after all, this is just an asset. All the liquid funds on their books have been taken away by Wang Desheng. Now Wang Desheng is dead, which means that they have no cash. Che Xiaoxiao is a legal person and also a victim. She can't do anything about the company's lack of money. And these patients are in a hurry to get compensation. Some of their families are really poor, and they need to take out the money immediately." Qin Haodong said, "Then we can cash the assets. If we auction the assets of the Hall of Medical Fame, we will have money to compensate." Pan Gaofeng said with a wry smile, "It's not that easy. The auction of hundreds of millions of assets is not a matter of a day or two. Moreover, the most important asset of the Hall of Medical Fame is the traditional Chinese medicine factory. Now that the traditional Chinese medicine industry is in a slump, who will take over?" Qin Haodong seemed to understand Pan Gaofeng's intention and said, "Director Pan, do you mean that you want me to take over the Hall of Medical Fame's traditional Chinese medicine factory?" Pan Gaofeng said with some embarrassment, "Brother Qin, I have no choice. If you can buy the Hall of Medical Fame's traditional Chinese medicine factory, it will help me a lot. The most important thing is that you won't suffer a loss. The total assets of the Hall of Medical Fame are 750 million yuan. Now you only need 300 million yuan. You will definitely make a profit if you buy it." "All right, I'll buy it." Qin Haodong agreed without hesitation. Originally, he had the idea of expanding the Tangmen Company, but he had not found a suitable opportunity. Now that the opportunity had come to him, he would certainly not miss it. Buying the assets of the Hall of Medical Fame with 300 million yuan would not only not suffer a loss, but also make a lot of money. "Great, Dr. Qin, thank you so much. You really helped me a lot this time." Pan Gaofeng was so happy that he almost jumped up. No wonder he had been under so much pressure recently. The patients' families had been chasing him for money, and the higher-ups had asked him to handle this matter well. In the middle, he had faced the difficulty of not being able to auction the assets of the Hall of Medical Fame. Now, Qin Haodong had finally made him see the hope of solving the problem. "Dr. Qin, when do you think the 300 million yuan will be in place? To tell you the truth, I have been chased by the patients' families. I don't even dare to go to the unit." Qin Haodong said, "As soon as the transfer of the assets is completed, I will ask Momo to transfer the money to you immediately." Pan Gaofeng said, "Well, I will start now and try to finish it today." Then he left the Tangmen Company excitedly to deal with the auction of the assets of the Hall of Medical Fame. Back in the president's office, Qin Haodong told Lin Momo what had happened. Finally, he said, "The total assets of the Hall of Medical Fame are between 700 and 800 million yuan. It is absolutely a big bargain for us to buy it with 300 million yuan. Moreover, There are so many medicinal materials in the warehouse of the Hall of Medical Fame. We can take them and directly produce them. I agree with this plan, Lin Momo said, but what are you going to do with the Hall of Medical Fame? Continue to produce the blood revival elixir? Qin Haodong said, one factory is enough to produce the blood revival elixir. The newly acquired factory can be used to produce the great liver protecting pill. We now have a production batch number for this medicine, and it has a good effect on treating liver diseases. We can continue to produce and sell it. The incident of the treasure tablet for kidney of the Hall of Medical Fame was a blessing in disguise for Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. Otherwise, it would have taken at least a few months to apply for the approval of the great liver protecting pill. Now this matter was specially handled, and it took less than a day to get the production batch number. Lin Momo nodded and said, I see. Qin Haodong took the pen and paper on the table, wrote a prescription and handed it to Lin Momo. He said, this is the prescription of the 9 Treasures kidney nourishing pill that I restored a few days ago. It completely makes up for the harm caused by the 9 Treasures kidney nourishing pill to the liver. It also has an excellent effect on treating kidney diseases. You can take it for approval now. After getting the approval, we can quantify the production. Haodong, you are so great. Lin Momo excitedly kissed Qin Haodong on the cheek. Originally, she thought that Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company only had one blood revival elixir, which was too single. Now, with the great liver protecting pill and the 9 Treasures kidney nourishing pill, the variety of products suddenly became rich. The key was that these 3 medicines had special effects. Any one of them was a heavyweight that could change the order of a market. After putting away the prescription, Lin Momo thought of something. The excitement on her face disappeared and she said gloomily, Haodong, I just went to see Xiao Xiao. She's very bad now. She is much thinner than before and she seems to be sick. She often feels nauseous and vomits. Qin Haodong said, I happen to be free now. Let's go and see her. If she is sick, I'll treat her. Since Qin Haodong was willing to treat her best friend, Lin Momo said gratefully, that's great, Haodong. I thank you for Xiao Xiao. How will you thank me? Just verbally? Verbally is fine, but you have to put it into action. Looking at Qin Haodong's smirk, Lin Momo knew what he meant. She couldn't help blushing. She punched him in the chest and said coquettishly, you're talking about this in broad daylight. I'll thank you in the evening. Che Xiao Xiao lived in an upscale community. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-living house, which was the only legacy left to her by her parents. They came to the door. Qin Haodong knocked on the door but there was no response. Don't call. She's like glued to the bed now. She won't get up even if you break the door. Lin Momo said as she took out a key, opened the door directly, and walked into Che Xiao Xiao's bedroom. Qin Haodong glanced at Che Xiao Xiao who was lying on the bed. Her hair was as messy as grass and her face was haggard. Although her eyes were wide open, they were extremely empty without any spirit. After they entered the door, there was still no response, as if they did not exist. This image was completely different from the first time he saw her. She did not look like a high-spirited, big-breasted girl at all. Xiao Xiao, Haodong and I are here to see you. Lin Momo came to the bed and saw that the porridge bowl next to it had not been touched. She couldn't help saying, Xiao Xiao, you can't always be like this. People have to eat. How can your body bear it if you don't eat? Che Xiao Xiao's body finally moved and she said, my parents are dead and so is Deshang. What am I still alive for? What's the point? Qin Haodong had already understood that Che Xiao Xiao's biggest problem at this time was her heart. She had no desire to live now, and it was not an exaggeration to say that her heart was like dead ashes. Lin Momo advised her, Xiao Xiao, how can you think like this? People can't live for others. Besides, you still have me. Che Xiao Xiao said excitedly, you have a daughter, a father, and people who love you. You have people you love. What do I have? I have nothing. Let me just die. Lin Momo said, Xiao Xiao, you are so young. In the future you can still find people who love you. You can also have children and live a happy life. Deshang is dead. I don't want to find anyone. Che Xiao Xiao turned her head to look at Qin Haodong and asked, I heard that Deshang died by your side. Can you tell me how he died? Qin Haodong sighed secretly. What a pitiful and hateful woman. She had been tricked by Wang Deshang, but she still remembered how he died. He did not hide it from her. He directly told her how Wang Deshang had encountered a car accident in M country a few years ago. He told her how he had been implanted with an artificial heart by Wilson and how he had been killed by an explosion. After listening, a bitter smile appeared on Che Xiao Xiao's stiff face. It turns out that Deshang didn't mean to lie to me. He was forced to do it. I said I love him so much. How could he lie to me? Qin Haodong knew that the girl could not stand the slightest blow, so he cooperated and said, yes, although Wang Deshang did a lot of wrong things, he was forced to do so. The mastermind is Wilson Company. Thank you. Che Xiaoxiao said, it's good to know that Deshang didn't mean to lie to me. I'll go to him now. Lin Momo said, Xiaoxiao, why are you so stupid? Don't kill yourself. Deshang is dead. What's the point of living? Che Xiaoxiao suddenly retched. She grabbed the trash can at the head of the bed and vomited for a long time, but nothing came out. Qin Haodong's heart skipped a beat. He reached out and put his hand on her wrist. Che Xiaoxiao lay down again and said weakly, you don't have to show me. I don't want to live anyway. It's better if I die. Although she said this, she seemed to have no strength to pull her hand back and let Qin Haodong feel her pulse. A minute later, Qin Haodong withdrew his right hand and said to Che Xiaoxiao with a smile, now you have a reason to live. You're pregnant. Lin Momo asked in surprise, what? Xiaoxiao is pregnant? Are you sure? Che Xiaoxiao's reaction was a little slow. A moment later her eyes flashed. She struggled to sit up in bed, stared at Qin Haodong and asked, you're not lying to me, are you? Am I really pregnant with Deshang's child? Chapter 356. Qin Haodong said with a smile, don't forget what my nickname is. If I can't even feel the slippery pulse of pregnancy, how can I be called medical sage in the future? Oh my god, I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. Che Xiaoxiao was excited at first and then she said with worry, no, I still think you're lying to me. It's only 10 days before I'm with Deshang. How can it be so fast? Did you see me vomiting just now, so you lied to me that I'm pregnant, didn't you? Qin Haodong said helplessly, I didn't lie to you. It's true. The reason why you have such a strong reaction is that you have a special constitution and are very sensitive. Secondly, because your mood has changed too much these days, it has intensified the pregnancy reaction. If you don't believe me, go to the hospital to do a pregnancy test, and you'll know the results soon. Seeing that Qin Haodong was very serious, Che Xiaoxiao asked again, are you sure you're not lying to me? Qin Haodong nodded and said again, no, you're really pregnant. Great, I'm pregnant. I have Deshang's child. Overwhelmed with emotion, Che Xiaoxiao held her lower abdomen with her hands and began to cry. Qin Haodong said, you're pregnant now. You can't be too emotional or you'll hurt the fetus. Well, I got it. Che Xiaoxiao took Lin Momo's hand and said, Momo, I also have a child. I'm going to be a mother. If it's a boy, he must be as handsome as Deshang. If it's a girl, she must be as beautiful as Tang Tang. While speaking, her eyes were full of spirit. This was the power of motherhood. The child in her belly gave her the courage to live again. Lin Momo breathed a sigh of relief and said, well, your child must be very beautiful. After the excitement, Che Xiaoxiao slowly calmed down. She opened the drawer, took out a bank card and handed it to Qin Haodong. I know Deshang made a mistake and brought a lot of harm to those patients. There are 2 million in this card, which I've saved over the years as a manager in dreamy Jiangnan. Take it to compensate those people. It's my atonement for Deshang. Lin Momo quickly said, Xiaoxiao, how can you do that? You have to keep the money for yourself. You have to raise your children in the future. Qin Haodong said, yes, Xiaoxiao, there's something I haven't told you yet. I spent 300 million yuan to buy the Wuxia Hall of Medical Fame. This 300 million yuan will be used to compensate those patients so you don't have to pay for it yourself. However, Che Xiaoxiao insisted, even so, we still have to add this money to compensate those people. Consider it my atonement for Deshang and doing good deeds for our children. Looking at her persistent eyes, Qin Haodong had no choice but to take the card. Lin Momo said, but Xiaoxiao, if you spend all the money, what about you and your child? It doesn't matter. Would I be afraid of starving if I were to follow you two tycoons? At this time, Che Xiaoxiao seemed to have returned to her usual sunny and generous personality. She said with a smile, besides, I have my own hands. I can work for you to earn money. Raising a child is not a problem. Alright then, if you have any difficulties, just tell us. Lin Momo said again, Xiaoxiao, Haodong and I want to buy the Hall of Medical Fame. Do you mind? If you do, we'll cancel the plan. Her eyes were extremely sincere. It could be seen that she cared about the affection between her and Che Xiaoxiao very much. Che Xiaoxiao said, I don't mind. This is a good thing. I hope to deal with this matter as soon as possible. It can also be considered as atonement for Deshang. Lin Momo breathed a sigh of relief and said, "That's good. I can't manage such a big company by myself. If it's convenient for you, come and help me. You're more familiar with the situation of the Hall of Medical Fame than me." Che Xiaoxiao said with a smile, "Okay, I'll go to work for you tomorrow. I don't want a salary as long as you take care of our meals." Lin Momo said, "How can you do that? If you help me, your salary will be double that of dreamy Jiangnan." "Suit yourself." Che Xiaoxiao said, "There's one thing I want to tell you too. Don't tell anyone that I'm pregnant with Deshang's child." "What?" Lin Momo asked in surprise. "Because I don't want the Wang family to know that this child is my only family and my motivation to live. I don't want them to take him away." "Oh, we know. We'll definitely keep it a secret for you." Qin Haodong then thought of another question and said, "Who's the father of the child? How will you explain it to others? It's my own belly. I can give birth to whoever I want. Why do I have to explain it to others?" Che Xiaoxiao said with a playful smile, "If someone asks, I'll say it's yours. Anyway, you have so many women. You don't need me." Oh. Qin Haodong was speechless. What was this all about? Did he have the potential to be a cheap father? However, it could also be seen that Che Xiaoxiao had indeed walked out of the shadow of Wang Deshang. There was no need to worry about her safety anymore. In the next 2 days, Che Xiaoxiao walked out of the shadow, and Lin Momo had another assistant. Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company successfully completed the acquisition of the Wuxia Hall of Medical Fame. The traditional Chinese medicine factory of the Hall of Medical Fame also became a subsidiary of theirs, and began the quantitative production of the great liver-protecting pill. When things were almost done, Qin Haodong and Lin Momo gave themselves a day off. The family of 3 went out to relax. Tang Tang was naturally the happiest. The little fellow was like a bird out of the cage. She had a great time. Lin Momo also felt a sense of freedom. She had been busy with the company's affairs over the years and rarely went out to play. Today she rode the wooden horse and the Ferris wheel with the little fellow, which could be regarded as a kind of relaxation from the inside out. Near dusk, the little fellow said, "Papa, I'm hungry." "It doesn't matter if you're hungry. Let's go eat something delicious." As Qin Haodong spoke, a fragrance floated in front of them. It happened to be a snack street, so the family of 3 walked in. It was simply a paradise for food. There were all kinds of snacks such as meatballs, kebabs, fried rice cakes, and fried squid. They all exuded a mouth-watering fragrance. The family of 3 happily wandered in front of various snack stalls. "Haodong, try this. It's crispy and crispy." Lin Momo handed a fragrant pastry to Qin Haodong. "No, I can't eat any more." "You eat it?" "I can't eat it either." The little fellow patted her round belly and said, "I want to eat it, but I'm too full to eat." Looking at her cute appearance, Qin Haodong and Lin Momo both laughed, and the little fellow also giggled. "Take it first. We'll eat it later." Lin Momo carried the fragrant pastry and the family of 3 walked out of the snack street. As soon as they reached the street, the little fellow suddenly pointed to the front and said, "Mama, look at that poor child." Qin Haodong and Lin Momo looked in the direction of her finger and saw a woman sitting on the street with a child in her arms. The woman looked about 30 years old. She was dressed in ordinary clothes. Although she was beautiful, she looked very simple without makeup. She was kneeling on the ground with a sad face. In her arms was a little boy about 1 or 2 years old. He looked sallow and very thin. His eyes were closed. It seemed that he was asleep. There was a piece of paper in front of the woman. It said that because the child had congenital heart disease, he needed to have an operation, but his family was poor and could not afford the operation. She hoped that a kind person could help to collect the money for the operation. Begging had gradually become a profession in Wuxia. Beggars used to be called beggars. When they begged, they only needed to give something to eat. But now it had completely changed. They only needed money, not food at all. And these people were best at pretending to be pitiful and winning people's sympathy. For example, the woman in front of them was kneeling on the ground with a sick child. Just a glance was enough to make people feel pity for them. "Mama, I'll help that child." Seeing the poor child, the little fellow suddenly became full of love. She took the fragrant pastry from Lin Momo's hand and ran to the woman. She said, "Auntie, this is fragrant pastry. It's delicious. Give it to the little brother." Seeing the fragrant pastry in the little fellow's hand, the woman's eyes flashed with imperceptible annoyance. Then she put on a grateful expression and said, "Thank you, child. He is still young and can't eat this kind of thing. He needs money for the operation now." "Oh?" The little fellow turned back, ran to Lin Momo and said, "Mama, the little brother is so pitiful. I want to give him money for the treatment." Seeing the little boy, Lin Momo also began to show maternal love. She also supported her daughter to give love. She took out her wallet and said, "How much do you think you should donate to the little brother?" The little fellow looked at the money in the wallet. There were about 2 or 3,000 yuan. She directly took it out and put it all in the small basin in front of the woman. Lin Momo put away the wallet and said, "Haodong, you see how kind our daughter is?" Qin Haodong smiled bitterly. He was not like Lin Momo, who grew up in a honeypot since childhood and became a high and mighty female president after adulthood. He was very clear about the twists and turns of these folk beggars. It was obvious that they were cheating money. However, in order not to hurt the loving mother and daughter, he did not say anything. It was only a few thousand yuan, so he thought it was a donation. There were only some coins in the begging basin in front of the woman. The little fellow threw a lot of money in it and it became extremely dazzling, attracting the attention of countless people. "Thank you, little friend. Thank you so much." The woman was shocked at first, and then there was a flash of ecstasy in her eyes. Recently, it had become more and more difficult for them to do this business. Through online publicity and media publicity, people were not as gullible as before. Even if some people would still donate money to them, it was usually 10 or 8 yuan. Those who could donate 100 yuan could be regarded as rich. It had been many years since he had seen someone throw away a few thousand yuan like the little fellow. After reading the paper in front of the woman, Lin Momo came over and said, "Sister, if you believe me, my boyfriend's medical skills are very good. He can cure your child's illness. There is no need for surgery at all." No need. I can get the surgery fee right away. "There is no need to bother you." The woman put on a grateful expression and said, "You kind mother and daughter have helped us so much. You will be rewarded for your kindness in the future." Lin Momo said, "Sister, I really want to help you. There must be risks in the surgery for such a young child. My boyfriend's medical skills are really good. He is a Chinese medicine practitioner. He can help your child in other ways." The woman refused again and said, "No, really. My son has congenital heart disease. Chinese medicine can't cure him." The little fellow said, "Auntie, my papa is really good. He can cure any disease. Let him see your little brother." Chapter 357. The mother and the daughter talked with sincerity, which made the onlookers shake their heads. They thought it was okay that the child was not sensible, but why couldn't her mother see that the woman in front of her was a big liar? She was beautiful and elegant, but she was so gullible. The woman's face became more and more ugly. She put away her hypocritical smile and said with a sullen face, "No need. I'll have the operation when I have enough money. I don't need to see a Chinese medicine practitioner at all." She began to feel dissatisfied. Although Lin Momo and the little fellow had given her a lot of money, there were more and more onlookers now. Many people were pointing at her and saying she was a liar. How could she do business? These two women were so annoying. Why didn't they get out? Lin Momo didn't know what she was thinking. She still sincerely persuaded, "Sister, are you not willing to accept others' favors? I tell you, everything is for the child. The child's condition is the most important." At this time, an aunt next to her couldn't stand it anymore. She couldn't help but say, "Daughter, I live nearby. I see her begging with the child every day. In fact, she is a liar. She has been here for almost 4 or 5 months." A liar? Lin Momo couldn't believe her ears. Although she was a mother of a child, she was the princess of the Lin family and the president of the group. She was completely ignorant about the life of the bottom of society. As a mother, she couldn't imagine anyone begging with their child. Impossible. They are so poor. How could they be a liar? Lin Momo shook her head and said, "Everyone has dignity. Who doesn't care about face?" If she hadn't been driven into a corner, how could she have knelt down and begged in the street? I guess she must have been forced to do so. She was defending the woman, but who knew that she would inadvertently stab the woman in the heart? "Who are you calling shameless?" The woman raised her hand and pointed at Lin Momo's nose. "Leave as soon as you give me the money. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Does it have anything to do with you whether I have dignity or not? Does it have anything to do with you whether I am shameless or not? Is it your business?" Lin Momo was stunned. She didn't expect this woman to change her attitude so quickly. She tried to explain, "Sister, I didn't mean that. I didn't say you were shameless." Unexpectedly, the woman still shouted, "What's so great about being rich? Don't talk endlessly here. Do you care whether I treat my child or not? Quickly take the little girl and get out of here. Don't pretend to be a good person here and hinder this old lady's business." Lin Momo was stunned on the spot. The woman's reaction had completely exceeded her worldview and made her at a loss for a moment. The little fellow took Lin Momo's hand and asked aggrievedly, "Mommy, why is Auntie angry? Did I do something wrong?" Looking at the wronged woman and daughter, Qin Haodong felt distressed. They were too kind and underestimated the sinister nature of human nature. He stepped forward, took the little fellow's hand and said, "Tang Tang, you did the right thing. We should be compassionate, but we must distinguish between the good and the bad. We should be compassionate to the good, but we should never be polite to the bad. For example, the woman in front of us is a bad person." The woman did not hear what Qin Haodong had said. She shouted beside him, "I say, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and take them away. She is very beautiful, but why is her IQ so low? You said that my woman has a low IQ and is stupid and rich, right? If it weren't for people like her, social garbage like you would have starved to death." Qin Haodong stood up, looked at the woman coldly and said, "It's people like you who consume everyone's love and make people lose trust. It's really shameless." "Toy boy, who are you calling shameless? Believe it or not, I'll tear your mouth apart." The woman had completely put away her pitiful and simple appearance just now, like a female yaksha. Qin Haodong glanced at her disdainfully and said, "Since you have failed to live up to my daughter's kindness, take our money back. You don't deserve her love." "Are you kidding me? I'll give it back if you say so. What do you think I am?" Speaking of this, she no longer knelt and held the child. She directly stood up from the ground, put one hand on her waist and said, "Do you want to pick a fight? Let me tell you, I've never been afraid of anyone in all these years. I don't want to fight with you, but you hurt the kindness of my wife and daughter. They have good intentions, but you treated them like this. Now you must apologize to them." "Apologize? Did you get kicked in the head by a donkey? How dare you ask me to apologize?" The woman seemed to have heard a funny joke and said arrogantly, "Don't you know whose territory this is? I've been here for so long, and who have I apologized to? Last time, a guy who didn't know what was good for him gave me 50 yuan and wanted to take it back. As a result, I broke his leg." Speaking of this, she turned her head to the crowd and shouted, "Brothers, come here. Someone is coming to make trouble." After she shouted, 5 or 6 strong men immediately squeezed in from the outside and surrounded Qin Haodong and the other two in the middle like fiends. There were many begging groups like them in Wuxia, and they had gradually formed a certain scale. These people were organized and divided. Some were responsible for begging and some were responsible for fighting. These people had been in Jiangnan City for a long time. Because it was a tourist city, there was a lot of traffic, so they didn't worry about being recognized for a long time. "It seems that you don't want to pay back the money?" Qin Haodong looked at the woman and sneered, "You're an organization, right? This child is not yours." Hearing this, the woman's expression changed slightly, and then she screamed, "Bullshit, if it's not mine then it's yours? Give birth to one for me to see. Don't think that you're great because you have some money. I tell you it's no use in front of me. Now take those 2 women and get out of here or I'll make you pay." Qin Haodong said, "If you want us to go, give us back the money and apologize to my wife and daughter. You're really King sick. Your family of 3 is retarded. The money is in my pocket and you want to get it back? Dream on." The woman said and waved to several strong men next to her, "This guy's IQ is too low. Teach him how to be a man." After the woman finished speaking, the leading man said to Qin Haodong, "Boy, keep your eyes open when you come out. There are some people you can't afford to provoke. Today I'll teach you a lesson." As he spoke, he raised his fist and smashed it toward Qin Haodong's face. In his opinion, there was no need for others to deal with such a weak gigolo. He could deal with him by himself. Qin Haodong raised his hand and grabbed the big man's wrist. He gently pulled it. Before the big man realized what was going on, there was a sharp pain on his shoulder, and then his arm hung down softly. For such a person, Qin Haodong would not be polite. He grabbed his other arm and dislocated his shoulder joint. Then he kicked him to the ground and dislocated all the joints of his legs. When he was done with all this, the other men came back to their senses and rushed over with a shout. But a minute later these people also fell to the ground exactly like the big man. All the joints of their limbs were dislocated, lying on the ground and crying. "Papa beat the bad guys. Papa is great." At this time, the little fellow had come out of her grievance, clapping her hands and shouting happily, "Good job, young man. You can't be polite to these evil people. These bastards have been running amok for a long time. They should have been dealt with long ago." It seemed that these people had already aroused public indignation. Seeing them being beaten by Qin Haodong, the surrounding people applauded Qin Haodong. The woman was stunned. In the past, when she was in trouble, as long as she called out these thugs, the other side immediately gave up. She did not expect to meet such a fierce person today. In the blink of an eye, her men were beaten like dogs. "You. What do you want?" The woman's tone was much softer, and she was no longer arrogant and domineering. Qin Haodong glanced at her and said, "My daughter has just come into contact with society. She is so caring, but you have polluted her pure heart. You should love what you do. Beggars should have the consciousness of beggars. Beggars should rely on other people's pity and love to make a living. It's okay to cheat people, but you are so arrogant. Do the police know that you are so overbearing? What do you want?" The woman asked again. "I've already told you. Apologize to my daughter and wife and then pay back the money. Nothing less." "Don't go too far." The woman cried again. "Do you know who I am?" Qin Haodong sneered and said, "I don't know. Don't tell me you are the leader of the beggar gang. Are you Huang Rong?" The woman cried, "I'm not the leader of the beggar gang, but my husband is. He is in charge of the beggars in the streets near the government. If you really go too far, my husband will teach you a lesson. I'm just getting back what should be taken for my wife and daughter. Am I going too far?" Qin Haodong looked at her and said, "No matter who your husband is, you have to do what I say now, or I promise you won't be able to beg in the future. Toy boy, you're courting death. Wait and see. I'll call my husband now." The woman took out her mobile phone and dialed the number of the legendary leader of the beggar gang. "Husband, bring some people here quickly. Someone is coming to make trouble." After the phone call, she turned back and shouted to Qin Haodong, "Boy, don't go if you have guts. My husband will teach you a lesson when he comes." Qin Haodong smiled slightly and did not speak. Since this woman was courting death, he did not mind removing the beggar gang, the malignant tumor of the city. 5 minutes later, a yellow Ferrari sports car drove over, followed by 2 vans. As soon as the door opened, a short and fat man got out of the Ferrari. He was wearing a famous brand suit and a tie, with an Omega watch on his hand. He looked like a successful man. Behind him, more than a dozen hooligans of different shapes and sizes came down, all of them holding steel pipes and knives in their hands, looking menacing. "Who the fuck dares to bully my wife? Are you tired of living?" The short and fat man came over, swearing. Afraid of the gangsters behind him, the onlookers quickly moved aside to make way for him. Seeing him, the woman immediately saw her savior. She quickly ran forward and said, "Husband, you're here. It's this guy who bullied me. He gave me money and wanted it back. He also beat our people." The short and fat man came to Qin Haodong and glanced at the people who were wailing on the ground. Then he asked, "Boy, where are you from?" Qin Haodong shook his head secretly. Now the world had really changed. Beggars who used to live on others' kindness now drove sports cars and wore famous brands. They didn't look like beggars at all. He ignored the short and fat man and asked, "Are you the leader of the beggars?" Chapter 358. You are a beggar. Your whole family are beggars. What the short and fat man hated most was being called a beggar. He shouted with his saliva flying, "I run a company. I'm the chairman of the company. Do you understand? Chairman." Qin Haodong smiled disdainfully. Nowadays even beggars were called chairman. He said, "You run a company? Then tell me what kind of company you run." The short and fat man cried, "A crowdfunding company. Do you understand? Crowdfunding." After he said that, the crowd burst into laughter. It was really a novel name. Beggars became crowdfunding. The short and fat man also knew that what he said was a little shameless. A touch of embarrassment flashed across his face. He pointed to Qin Haodong and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Today you bullied my wife and beat my brother. You must pay for it or I'll teach you a lesson." Qin Haodong said, "My daughter came here to show her love, but she met you liars. Now give me the money and apologize or I'll teach you a lesson." "Boy, I see that you're here to make trouble today." The short and fat man waved his hand behind him and said, "Brothers, show him a lesson. First, break the legs of this gigolo boy and then scratch the faces of those 2 women. Let them know the consequences of offending us." After receiving his order, the gangsters swarmed up and surrounded Qin Haodong and the other 2. The onlookers were very sympathetic to Qin Haodong. Although they knew that he knew some martial arts, it was impossible for him to beat so many gangsters alone. However, sympathy was sympathy. After all, they were ordinary people. Seeing these fierce gangsters, they could only retreat. Occasionally, 2 people hid nearby and secretly called the police. Beat them hard for me." The short and fat man shouted arrogantly. A gangster waved a knife in his hand and rushed to Qin Haodong. Suddenly, his knife was in Qin Haodong's hand. Then a huge foot appeared in front of him and he was kicked away. The other gangsters saw that their companions were at a disadvantage and rushed over together. However, these people were no match for Qin Haodong. They were knocked down in a few seconds. A gangster saw how powerful Qin Haodong was, so he sneakily approached Lin Momo and smashed her head with a steel pipe. There was a burst of exclamations from the crowd, making everyone think that this beautiful woman was about to die. Suddenly, a cold light flashed and a dagger pierced through the hooligan's arm. The steel pipe fell to the ground with a clang. Of course, it was Qin Haodong who did it. His mind had always been on Lin Momo and the little fellow. How could he let them be hurt by the gangsters? After piercing the hooligan's arm with the dagger, he kicked the hooligan more than 10 meters away. The hooligan crashed into the lamppost next to him and spat out mouthfuls of blood. The chunky man was dumbfounded. Before he could close his mouth, all of his men had been knocked to the ground. Qin Haodong came to him and said, "How is it? Have you thought it through? Do you want to return the money and apologize?" The short and fat man took 2 steps back and shouted nervously, "Don't mess around. I'm telling you, hundreds of my men are coming this way. You talk too much nonsense." Qin Haodong raised his hand and slapped him in the face. The short and fat man spun a few times on the spot. His cheeks were swollen and his teeth fell to the ground. "Have you thought it through? Do you want to return the money and apologize?" I have. The short and fat man knew that he had met a tough guy today, so he turned to the woman and shouted, "Are you stupid? Hurry up and return the money and apologize." At this time he hated this woman to the core. She could have provoked anyone, but she had provoked such a powerful person. "I'm sorry," the woman said pitifully. In her eyes, the short and fat man was omnipotent, but now he was subdued by Qin Haodong, which made her feel fear immediately. Qin Haodong said coldly, "Send the money back to my daughter." I'll return it now." The woman quickly stuffed the stack of bills into the little fellow's hand. "Tell everyone that you're a liar." Looking at the people around, the woman did not say anything. Qin Haodong did not speak. He raised his hand and slapped the short and fat man in the face again. With a crisp sound, the man was directly knocked to the ground. The short and fat man covered his swollen cheek and scolded the woman, "Damn, are you stupid? We're liars. What's there to be embarrassed about? Just say it." Seeing the man's fierce eyes, the woman trembled with fear and quickly cried, "I'm sorry, I'm a liar. I lied to everyone. Show some sincerity." The short and fat man was afraid that Qin Haodong would not be satisfied and hit him again, so he roared, "I'm sorry, I lied to everyone." The woman knelt on the ground with the child in her arms. The short and fat man looked up at Qin Haodong and said, "Brother, no sir, is it okay now?" Qin Haodong nodded and said, "Barely. Let her get up." Thank you. The woman finally breathed a sigh of relief and stood up from the ground with the child in her arms. The short and fat man said, "Sir, the money has been returned and the apology has been received. Can we go now?" He had made up his mind that as long as he passed today, he would leave Jiangnan City immediately and would never see the man in front of him again. "Not yet." Qin Haodong said to the woman, "Bring me the child." This is not appropriate," the woman said in a panic. The short and fat man also said, "Sir, the child is too young and ignorant. It would be bad if he pees on you." Qin Haodong ignored him and shouted to the woman again, "I told you to bring the child here." Well. The woman glanced at the short and fat man and tremblingly carried the child to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong took the child. Although there was such a big noise outside, the child was still sleeping and there was no sign of him waking up. He opened the quilt and revealed the child's whole body. Although the child looked almost 2 years old, he was extremely thin and his face was gray. It was obvious that he had been malnourished for a long time. His small arms and legs were only a little thicker than an adult's thumb. He looked very pitiful. The little fellow ran over, looked at the child and said, "Papa, the little brother is so pitiful." Qin Haodong took the child's little hand and felt his pulse. Then he said in a sharp voice, "What did you give the child?" The woman said in a low voice, "No, nothing, just milk powder." Qin Haodong lifted his leg and kicked the woman to the ground. He said angrily, "Did you feed the child sleeping pills?" He had already seen that the woman did not give the child enough to eat at all. In order to prevent the child from crying, she put sleeping pills in his milk, which was the reason why the child had not woken up. If such a young child were to be fed sleeping pills for a long period of time, it would affect the brain. In serious cases, it could even cause dementia. After listening to his words, the onlookers understood why the child was so honest and had been sleeping. It turned out that he had been fed sleeping pills. Damn it, feeding such a young child sleeping pills? Is this woman crazy? What kind of mother is this? She actually fed her own child medicine. I don't think this is her child at all. The child must have been stolen. I've seen it on the news. In order to gain people's sympathy, these beggars steal children and pretend to be pitiful. It makes sense. Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. Who can be so cruel to their own child? She must have stolen the child. In the midst of the condemnation, the woman got up tremblingly. Qin Haodong asked in a cold voice, "Tell me the truth, did you steal the child?" He had already seen that the child was not the same as the squat man and the woman. It was definitely not their child. The only thing he needed to determine was how the child came about. The woman opened her mouth, but did not dare to say anything. She turned her head and looked at the squat man next to her. Seeing that things were not going well, the squat man turned his head and was about to slip away, but he was kicked to the ground by Qin Haodong. "Tell me, where did this child come from?" Qin Haodong asked, stepping on his chest. "My son, this is my son," the squat man said. "Nonsense, who would starve their son like this? It's obvious that the child hasn't eaten for a long time. It's obvious that he's lying. Who would feed their child sleeping pills?" None of the onlookers believed that the child was the squat man's son. Did you hear that? No one believes you at all. "Tell me quickly, where did this child come from?" Qin Haodong asked again. "It's my son, it's really my son." The squat man knew very well that he could admit other things, but child abduction was a big crime, and he might be beheaded, so he refused to tell the truth. Qin Haodong really didn't want to talk nonsense with him, so he directly used mind manipulating. "Tell me the truth, where did this child come from?" There was a flash of confusion in the squat man's eyes and he said, "I sent someone to steal him." Soon the guy told all the facts of the crime clearly. Their gang made a living by begging and called themselves the Beggar Gang. The squat man was called the gang leader and he had dozens of people under him. These people had a clear division of labor. Some begged everywhere to cheat money, some stole things, and some acted as thugs. While begging, they also did a lot of evil things. For example, they captured some homeless people and crippled them. Then they put them in crowded places and pretended to be pitiful. While they consumed people's sympathy, they also earned a lot of money. Similarly, they would do everything possible to steal children because children were easier to gain sympathy than adults. For example, the child in the woman's arms was stolen from someone else's house. Qin Haodong asked again, "Why did you give this child sleeping pills?" The squat man said, "In order to save costs. Nowadays children's milk powder is so expensive, so we can save as much as we can. Besides, it's easier to make money if he's thin. If he's fat and white, he won't be pitiful. But the child is very annoying because he doesn't have enough to eat. He always cries, so my wife thought of a way to give him sleeping pills so that he's much more obedient." "Bastard, how can you treat a child like this? Bastard, how dare you steal other people's children? You're worse than animals. In the future you won't even have a child of your own. Yeah. Kill him. Kill these harmful things." While they were talking, people couldn't control their anger. They picked up the bricks, stones, wine bottles and other garbage on the side of the road and threw them at the squat man and the woman. For a moment, the two men were beaten black and blue, and their heads were bleeding. They screamed like pigs being slaughtered. 5 minutes later, the two men were beaten to death. They were miserable. If it went on like this, they would definitely be killed by the angry people. It would be troublesome to kill people. Qin Haodong was about to stop them when a siren sounded and 2 police cars drove over. Nalan Wuxia got out of the car, glanced at the 2 dying guys and asked Qin Haodong, "What's going on?" "You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.